Hey, everybody. Hi. Welcome to the Jeff Gerstmann Show. It's me, Jeff Gerstmann, here with you for June 28th. It is MAME week around these parts. MAME, the long-running arcade emulator, tends to release the final Wednesday of every month. I have no idea what's in this week. I don't know what's in MAME this month. I haven't been keeping track. But I guess Marble Madness 2 will probably be in there because it was not in the last release. If you want to play Marble Madness 2, the unreleased follow-up to Marble Madness, it should be playable in MAME this week, tomorrow. I did not intend to start the show talking about MAME week, but here we are. As a long-time MAME fan, there is a part of me that, like, when we get to the last week of every month, I'm like, ooh, yeah, time to update them software lists. Time to get this, hopefully one day they will emulate the digital video cartridge on the CDI so that we can play Thunder in Paradise. Actually, what I should do... Welcome to CDI Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Gerstmann. What I should do is I should actually just buy a DVC. I should buy the add-on card for my actual real CDI and then burn discs and play them on the CDI. That's probably what I should be doing instead of the emulation of the CDI. Has gotten a lot better lately. If we want to be real about it, if we want to talk about the CDI emulation in MAME, everyone, thank you for joining us. We're here talking about the CDI emulation in MAME. It's gotten a lot better very recently, and that's been awesome. And it's been great to see it. These are the platforms that need to be preserved is maybe not the word. These are the platforms that people need to see. These are the platforms that people need to get more of a look at. I was looking through the redump list of like accurate dumps of CDI discs a couple of nights ago, as I do. And there was something in there that was just called like BF Goodrich, the power of the BF Goodrich brand. And so like the CDI existed in this like enterprise retail sort of way where there's a bunch of like digital catalogs for products. And I really want to see these fucking tires. I don't know. That's me. That's how I spend my nights. I don't know what you're up to out there, but like, you know, I get things. The sun goes down, the temperature cools off a little bit. A baby goes to sleep in this bassinet behind me, and I quietly sit over here and rifle through digital CDI discs to figure out what the hell's going on out there. In other news, I bought a case of this crap. Well, hey. I don't know if it's crap or not. I could not find any of the Rocks energy drink locally. I could not locally source a can of Zoa. And so in a quest to enjoy my gaming, I bought a case of it, and I'm about to open one right now. I bought, what is this? Tropical Punch. It says it has 160 milligrams of natural caffeine. And then it says Healthy Warrior Energy Drink, which I don't. Oh, there's a quote here. It says, enjoy your gaming. Weird. No, it says, my fellow everyday warriors, Zoa is about healthy, positive energy that helps us all focus, be productive, and get stronger together. Mana, gratitude, Zoa. And then it has, I don't know, is this Dale Earnhardt's signature on this? I don't know. Is that number 3? I don't know what that says. I assume it says Dale Earnhardt. Because why wouldn't it, right? I mean, it's... Oh, wait. No, Dwayne... Okay, wait. Hang on. So I'm going to crack this bad boy open, as we do around here, to figure out what's going on in the world of energy drinks. I'm going to say 160 milligrams sounds hella pinner, dog. Hella fucking pin. Mad fucking pin dog, Dwayne. We're popping 300s over here. This 160, what? But it is natural caffeine. So if it's that tea-based shit, maybe it'll... I don't know. This smells weird. It does not smell like a tropical punch. All right, my fellow everyday warriors, let's... Oh, it's like a Hawaiian punch. What's gone bad? It's like they took a Hawaiian punch and said, what if we fucked it all up? I don't think this is a good drink. And the depressing part about it, the depressing part about the Zoa is, one, I want to like it because there's a part of me that is just, I feel this desire. I want to like what The Rock is doing with himself these days. Maybe that's a fault on my part. And I love Hawaiian Punch. Believe you me. Whew. If I could, Hawaiian Punch is like just... Hawaiian Punch seems like it has to be the worst thing you could ever put in your body. I feel like there's an aspect of a Hawaiian Punch that, like, it is syrupy, thick, sugary. It is disastrous. I love Hawaiian Punch. I love Tahitian Treat. While we're talking, I might take a Tahitian Treat over. In fact, I have many times, but that's usually because Tahitian Treat is a little bit harder to find. I love Fruit Punch. The Rockstar Fruit Punch is probably my go-to energy drink. The Rockstar 0 calorie fruit. I love it. But Hawaiian Punch there's a thickness to it. You feel it. It's just like, well, this is going to rot away my teeth. And also, if I have more than 4 sips of this, I am going to have to go start robbing people for insulin money. But damn, Hawaiian Punch is good. So like that's the like backhanded, that's the extra slap from drinking a tropical punch. Zoa is like, you're like, oh man, could this be a 15 calorie Hawaiian Punch? And you're like, yes, but also it's terrible. It smells like dust. It smells like chalky. It smells like a powder. It smells like someone cracked open a protein powder, some kind of weird protein powder thing. Well, I bought a case of that and paid too much for it, I will say, as well. I believe a case of 12 was somewhere in the $30 range. So, going to be drinking these for a while. Do I have to shake it? That would be... That's a good question from the chat here. Do you need to shake? No, it doesn't say anything about shaking. It just says contains no fruit juice. Don't drink it if you're pregnant. It's got some B6 and some B12 and so on and so forth. Yeah, I don't know. It's no good. That's my thoughts on it. What else has been going on around here? Hey, thanks everybody. This is the 4th episode of this show. We've been doing this for I guess that means we've been doing this about a month now. And what a month it's been. I want to thank everyone for signing up, checking stuff out. Signing up for the Patreon. It's been awesome. We've been building something real cool over on Discord. It's just, it's been fun chatting with people. We were in there in the wrestling channel while the wrestling was happening over the weekend, and that was a good time. And I don't know. It's just it's a good group we're building here. You can get involved by going to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. I don't know if this is a milestone or not. I don't know if it matters. We hit 25,000 YouTube subscribers. That seems cool. I don't know. Do I get a thing in the mail from them? No, not. I don't get that at 25,000. Got to keep grinding. Got to keep grinding on. Okay. All right. Well. Okay. Yeah, they're gonna send me a piece of paper that says congratulations, you started a thing. So yeah, thanks to everyone that's been checking stuff out. The podcast should now be available on pretty much every platform. In fact, it's on Spotify twice. I have to file an infringement report because there's a rogue version of the feed out there kicking around. You got to watch out for that. I don't know. They could be inserting. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're stealing. They're bootlegging it, and I don't like that. So I don't know. I guess I got to call the cops on Spreaker. It's always Spreaker. Some people have asked about Stitcher, which I guess doesn't. I don't. Anyway, the podcast should be available on pretty much every single place that podcasts are available. Someone asked me the other day about Stitcher, and apparently Stitcher doesn't just lift everything out of the iTunes catalog like everyone else does. They want to be special and get their own podcasts. So what's a Stitcher? That's a great question coming out of the chat. What is a Stitcher? We'll never know. Stitcher was they bought Earwolf at some point. I know that much, that at some point there was a Stitcher Premium. That was how you got the ad-free episodes of Comedy Bang Bang or something. And then they split that off into its own thing. So I'm sure Stitcher's real great if they're like, hey, we're starting our own service to get it away from that. And then does that mean that they're owned by... Anyway, welcome to Corporate Podcast Ownership Talk. I think all that stuff is owned by the satellite radio people. So, yeah. I listened to another 5 minutes of the TikTok satellite radio station while going to the post office the other day, because I had to mail in a thing saying, yes, I would like to continue to have health benefits for me and my family. Yes, I would. Yes. Thank you. I believe it goes to Major Blood and the Baroness, and then they show it to the commander, and whatever happens from there, I don't know. And then I get to keep going to doctors. All right, look, we've got some games to talk about. We're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk about all the latest, hottest new games. Like Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple minutes to talk about the hottest, latest releases. It's summertime. Like the song, summertime. You know that song, right? All right, look, the weather is warm, and sometimes that means it is not cooling off at night the way you want it to. The other night it was like 3 a.m, and it was still like 72 degrees, and that was hey, I mean, that's a nice temperature, but not when it has been 97 all day long. And so that can lead to some hot and sleepless nights, and you're desperately trying to find a way to stay cool, huh? Yeah, you don't want to wake up all sweaty and sticky and all that other stuff. Well, hey, why don't you give this a shot? Miracle Brand's self-cooling bed sheets. This is a way I can stay comfortable all night long. Now, these fabrics are silver infused. Originally developed by NASA to be thermoregulating, these are designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long so you can get better sleep every night. And that silver, it's not just to keep the vampires out of your bed. No. That natural silver can prevent 99.9% of bacterial growth, meaning these sheets can be self-cleaning. They stay cleaner longer, and they stay fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. No more stank ass odor on your sheets. That can be nice as well. Luxurious comfort and quality. These Miracle Brand sheets have got them. Without the high price tag of these other luxury brands, these sheets use a premium 500 thread count sateen weave. Sateen. And that's made with USA grown Supima cotton, which is one of the highest quality cottons in the world. This deal sounds better and better as we go. Silver? That's sleeping on silver. What do I deserve? Am I fancy? Do I deserve this? Do you deserve? Yes, you do. And it's better for your skin because it gets rid of all that bacteria. The clean sheets mean there's not as much gunk in there that can clog up your pores, meaning fewer breakouts and other skin problems. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, how do I get involved? I'm glad you asked. Go to trymiracle.com/Jeff to try it today. And there's a special deal for you, the listener, right now. If you use our promo code Jeff at checkout, you can save 40%. Whew. That number's so crazy. I'm stumbling. It's like, whoa, 40%. And you get 3 free towels. Miracle is so confident in their product that it is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep today with Miracle Brand. Go to trymiracle.com/Jeff and use the code Jeff to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save 40% off. Man. All right. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Jeff. And thank you to Miracle Brand for sponsoring this episode. Silver sheets. Okay. Hi, we're back. And my voice is going out over the airwaves. Let's talk about a little game called Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. So in the wake of Dragon's Dogma 2 getting announced, it got me thinking, I tried, I don't know, I played I think I played some kind of preview version of Dragon's Dogma before it came out that was like, that allowed me to do all the creepy crawling around on the monsters. And I was like, that seems crazy. And then when the final version came out, I probably played, I don't know, the first hour and a half of it, less maybe. And just sort of fell off of the combat, once I discovered, I think, the first demo I played was all about all that creepy crawling. And then in action, when all that stuff is governed by stamina meters and all that other stuff, is like, oh man, I'm not climbing on these monsters as much as I want to. I really want to be climbing on these monsters more than the game seems to be allowing me to do. And that really put me off of it right off the bat. 10 years later, separate expectations and a variety of takes on the game. I feel, there's definitely the game has its extreme fans, people who will like to sing the praises of a Dragon's Dogma, and then people who are just like, this game is fucked up. This game is too fucked up. It's too janky. It's too messed up. It's too much of a mess. I'm not here for this. So on Friday, streamed some of it. Finally, was like, okay, let's check out some Dragon's Dogma. Let's see what's going on here and see how I like it. And it turns out I like it. Turns out it's silly. It is. I don't know. I wonder. In some ways, is that game ahead of its time? I'm not super deep into it. Obviously, we streamed it on Friday for a couple of hours here. It has. There are issues with, I don't know, like I'm playing as a Strider, and it starts you out in more of a fighter role with a sword and shield, and you can block. And so like there was a part of me that was like, okay, like you really want to map the kind of, when you return to it this many years later is what I mean here. You want to start mapping Dark Souls kind of ideas onto it because Dragon's Dogma built up this cultish fan base, all this other stuff, and sometimes it's some of the same people that are really into the Souls games. You start to want to like draw those comparisons and go like, oh, well, this is definitely one of, and it's super not one of those. It's not one of those games. It is a fantasy game. It is, you have a light and heavy, you're doing attacks, you're putting special moves onto buttons and like, okay, only hold down left bumper and hit attack, and now it does this and does this cool spin attack or whatever. And it's very much more of a get in their face and hit the buttons kind of game than a, wait it out, wait for your window, wait all this other stuff. It's more like run up here, hit the grab button, climb on this chimera for a while and just stab it, and then you'll get thrown off or something will happen, and it's silly. And that's not always the best move to do, but boy, isn't it sure fun to have this kind of like, I think at the time I was looking at it and looking at Dragon's Dogma and saying, is this going to be Monster Hunter for me? is this going to be a Monster Hunter game that I can get into? Because I'm down to stab ridiculous big monsters, but the classic Monster Hunter style is not something I am especially interested in. Of course, this is before Monster Hunter World came out, and as I've said, Monster Hunter World I think is a really awesome game. They found a great way to make that game, I guess, appealing to a Western audience, appealing to a wider audience, I guess I would say, not even necessarily just a Western audience. Monster Hunter World, I think they did a great job. But Dragon's Dogma feels like, hey, from the company that brought you that other thing with the big monsters, here's another one with the big monsters, and it's like somehow jankier, but the combat is a little more active. Active's maybe not even the right word. The combat is a little more mashy and kind of whatever, and you can kind of get away with stuff. But here's what I like doing in Dragon's Dogma. From my brief period of time with it, you can use that grab button on people, and sometimes you just see people walking up the road holding a big box, and they're just like minding their owns, right? They're just like, I gotta bring my box of stuff, I gotta get it into town, my box. And then you can just walk up there, hit the grab button, pick them up, they drop their box breaks, and you just set them back down, and you're just like, yeah, what do you think about that? Where's your fucking box now? Where's your fucking box now? Of course, you can also take people and throw them off of cliffs. And that's also very satisfying. The whole pawns thing, and the characters that kind of back you up are, they talk like idiots, and there's storyline reasons for that, as I understand it. I did have the end of the game kind of spoiled for me years and years ago. And I understand that they are fun to throw off of cliffs as well. And yes, wolves hunt in packs. It's I don't know. It's silly. I think it's a lot of fun to go back to right now for me. After everything that's happened over the last 10 years, and be able to approach this game with the benefit of where games have gone in the last decade, and be like, okay, yeah, this is not a Souls game, and I'm glad that it's not. The combat is a little weird. It's a little funky. It has some ideas. I'm playing as a Strider because people said the bow was very powerful when I was streaming it, and I was like, "Yep, yeah, no, that seems pretty good." But at first, I was like, "Well, I can't block. What do I got to do?" It's like, "Oh, I just jump out of the way." Like there's not even like a roll, because you again think about everything that's happened. Like the games that have think about how many copies Elden Ring sold, and how like fucking mainstream or whatever From's style of game has become. And Dragon's Dogma is not one of those, but it's like, but you can, I don't know. I feel like I am much more equipped to enjoy Dragon's Dogma now than I was when it first came out, because I think, because of where games have gone over this last chunk of time, I think there's just, I don't know, like I'm much more prepared to meet Dragon's Dogma in the middle, to meet it on its own terms and say, yes, let's go on this dumb adventure. Boy, you people, every time you open your mouth, you say something fucking stupid. I'm all for it. And yeah, I don't know that. And I think that's, I don't know, to me, that's exciting. I don't know. It's just exciting to be able to go back to that and find that, like, oh, this thing actually is quite enjoyable. And I think that's again, I'm kind of, I don't want to take my individual experience with this one game and blow it up to talk about gaming as a whole, but gaming as a whole, let me talk about it. Think about Elden Ring, think about Demon's Souls when it first came out. Think about the types of people that were singing the praises of Demon's Souls when that game first launched on PlayStation 3, and how they were shunned. They're demons. They're bad people. They're monsters. They only play bad games, and they're terrible human beings. And now think about where we're at with Elden Ring, and think about how how many damn copies that sold and how crazy that is. Because like Elden Ring, and again, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert about all these video games of a Souls variety. Elden Ring does do its things that make it more approachable than some of the other games that From Software has made, right? I mean, I think that's we can all I think we're all in some form of agreement about that. But it's still one of those. It's still pretty faithful to what that game was, and they've just found a lot of smart improvements that improve the quality of life for people playing those games, and they've found ways to improve on that side, but also people have become so much more prepared to meet those games on their own terms. Like more people, I guess. You know, these games that you used to think of as just like these small niche products that like no one ever really got super deep into. They're just like they're genre games. They're off on the corner. You know, they're off appealing to the people they appeal to, and you never have to think about them again. You know, what else is there? There's a lot of, you know, non-Final Fantasy Japanese developed role-playing games of a certain era kind of falls into that to a certain extent, though obviously Final Fantasy VII kind of made people more open to the idea. So I loved Suikoden and Suikoden 2. And at the time, that was, you know, those games were well received by the people who were there to play them, but it wasn't like they were these world-beating, huge, zillion sell, you know, like all this other stuff. I loved Persona 1 when that game came out, because of the different approach it took to that style of role-playing game. You know, in terms of like, whoa, you can talk to the monsters. That's ridiculous. And it's high school kids. That's so different than fucking sword idiot anime jack off. I am fucking all for it. And so, yeah, you know, like it's just, I don't know. Where am I going with this? It's that it's crazy that these games, the Persona franchise is a perfect example. That these games have like grown to the degree that they have. The idea that like, okay, this Nintendo Direct that happened this morning, that they can say, hey, that Nier game that everyone fucking loved is coming to the Switch, and people are like, yeah, and people are like, fucking yeah, another platform for Nier. Let's fucking go. And like Nier is a, you know, whatever. What's Nier? It's a third-person action game. You know, it's a character action game and a Devil May Cry-ish sort of variety, you know, mode. That's a really narrow way to define it, right? I mean, obviously, the things that make Nier Automata special are more than just like I can hit XXXY and then launch them and do that. You know, like that stuff's fun. But like, there's so much more going on in that game. That game is so incredible, and like and people are interested in it. That's the big change, right? It's not like when Nier first came out back on the PS3 and people were like, look at this fucking clunky mess of a goddamn game. What a fucking disaster this is. All I hear about is the fishing anyway. Now it's bad. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that's become one of the, when I kind of take the long view about like video games and the people that play them and the industry and the different approaches that people are taking to try to make games more palatable to more people. I think people think about like stuff like, oh, well, Game Pass and people being able to play Xbox games on their phones and people being able to, you know, and Microsoft's vision of 1 billion people playing and all this other stuff. And like, yeah, there is that. But also, I think longtime game players have become more and more open to more types of games again. And it wasn't always that way. I think everyone got very segmented, not only along the like console fanboy lines or whatever, but I think people just became like, and these people still exist. I mean, let's not, you know, hand wave it all away, but like there was that just like, well, these people just play shooters, these people just play PC shooters, these people just play Japanese role-playing games, and you know, as someone who was assigning a lot of reviews through that era, you definitely had people that like pigeonholed into those different categories, and the number of people that could take on like a ton of different genres, you didn't have all those when it came to like the deeper style of game, the game that took a little bit more than the 8-hour B game, the 8-hour like third person shooter that, you know, Midway and THQ were putting out over and over again, or, you know, which some of those games are fine, like, you know, but yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of players are just open to a lot of different things. I think a lot of the things that shut people off from certain types of games have become very normalized to where, like, anime is a great example of like a thing that, you know, an anime style in a game would really pigeonhole it as like, this is for a certain type of fucking sicko. Here you go, you sick fucks. There's another game for you. You creeps, you Legend of the Overfiend watching dirtbags. Go. Here's another cartoon creepy game for you, you creepy. And it's just, I don't know. That's obviously not the thing anymore. That's not how it's all viewed anymore. And it's awesome. It's awesome. And Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen seems fucking awesome out of the gate. I'm having a really good time with it. I think I'm going to play more of it on Friday. I think I might stream some more Dragon's Dogma if people are into that. And keep going. It crashed on me. Which led to me then playing some Sonic Origins. Which is available now. And I said it on the stream on Friday, and I think the kind of the only thing I really want to talk about when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog anymore is, yes, the quotes that are on the Japanese box art for the early Sonic games. Go and watch that stream. It's on YouTube. I don't have a good short URL for the YouTube. It's on. Go to my link tree. What is it? linktr.ee/Jeff Gerstmann. And there's links. There's some links there. If you're in the chat right now on Twitch, there's some links there too. If you're over here on my other monitor in the Discord chat, you're talking about Xenogears. And hello. So Sonic Origins is a collection of the early Sonic the Hedgehog games, 1, 2, 3, and CD, and Knuckles, 3 and Knuckles. Redone in a 16:9 format. That, as I understand it, has, you know, been, yeah, and then they've strung the games together in one long story mode with a bunch of anime cutscenes. They've added some premium fun as DLC for you to unlock if you like mirror mode, and I don't know. Here's what I'll say about Sonic Origins. It did not change anything about how I felt about the Sonic the Hedgehog games of the 2D era. This was when I came to this conclusion, and this is, again, a couple of years ago. This is relatively recent. That this realization of just like, oh man, yeah, maybe all the Sonic games were bad. And I think the main thing that I feel that makes them bad is the situation when you lose all your momentum and you are standing on a slight incline and you are attempting to push to the right to walk up the incline, and Sonic is just barely moving up this tiny fucking hill, and then you jump to try to get up the hill and he jumps back the other way because he's on the incline. That encapsulates, for me, Sonic the Hedgehog being a piece of trash video game. And not being any fun to play. They have attempted to mitigate this in the early Sonic games by bringing the spin dash and the drop dash into Sonic 1. And I I guess that technically makes it a slightly better game, but boy, it's still just I just don't think those games play well. I think that I was a unruly teen. I needed a role model, and a fat plumber was not going to do it. Like, I can't identify with that fucking guy. I couldn't grow a mustache. What do I know of plumbing or carpentry? For that matter. I needed a hero with attitude. I needed someone who could help to usher in the attitude era of video games. And by that, I mean Sonic the Hedgehog, and then furthermore, Bubsy and Gex, Awesome Possum, these wise cracking miscreants. And Sega was there for me to really usher in the attitude era of video games. Yes, and then we got to Conquer, and they pushed it too far. Fuck Conquer. You heard it here. That game sucks. Conquer's a bad game. Conquer's bad game day is every day. But the music, and I think the visuals, I think the art style in those early Sonic games, just the way Sonic looks, the way the enemies look, the way the levels look, all of that stuff, I think is really fantastic. I think it looks really nice. But more importantly, I think the soundtracks, for me, it's Sonic 1 and 2. I know people have huge attachments to the Sonic 3 stuff, and we'll get into some of that in the news, because Yuji Naka, he don't give a fuck. He's talking now. He's just like, no, fuck him. Fuck everybody. You don't like Balan Wonderworld? Well, check this out. Michael Jackson. Balan Wonderworld is the Michael Jackson of video games. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna regret that. Nah, you know what? Sticking with it. I love the soundtrack, especially to Sonic 1. It's there's just some great effing songs on that soundtrack, and Sonic Origins reminded me of that. And so I guess on some sick level, thank you to Sonic Origins for reminding me of the incredibly narrow little thing that I do still like about Sonic the Hedgehog. And it is that it is an amazing soundtrack that is some of the best the Genesis had to offer. It is some masterful use of the Genesis's sound hardware, that FM synth style sound. They just do a tremendous job with it, and that music is still great. Some other quick hits here. You know, those are the two games that I have the most to talk about this week: Dragon's Dogma and Sonic Origins. Of course, Capcom Fighting Evolution came out. If you like playing Red Earth, and hell, who doesn't? You can play it now online in an official product. I'm going to pull up the list here of the games that are part of the Capcom Fighting collection, because I've already forgotten. So yeah, I mean, they've done Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. Yeah, sorry, did I say Capcom Fighting Evolution? That's what I wrote here in my notes, is Capcom Fighting Evolution. If we would, dude, I would much rather talk about Capcom Fighting Evolution than a lot of the stuff. Well, that's not entirely true. All right, here's the stuff that's in the Capcom Fighting Collection: Darkstalkers, Night Warriors, Darkstalkers Revenge, Vampire Savior, Vampire Hunter 2, Vampire Savior 2, Hyper Street Fighter 2, the Anniversary Edition, Puzzle Fighter, Pocket Fighter, or Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, if you must, and Cyberbots, and also Red Earth, or Warzard. All right. I mostly just want to talk about the word Warzard here. Red Earth was known as Warzard in Japan. And is it a wizard? So Warzard is just a wizard, but for war. It's a wizard of war. It's just a Wizard of War. I want to play Wizard of War. I want to play Wizards of War. That's a good game. It talks. It's fun. It makes all kinds of cool noises. This collection came out. It is not doing it for me. I feel like that the filters and stuff have a grime to them. It does do the it at least does the service of players that are trying to play it online. I don't know if Capcom has done this with any of their other collections or not. I think they did it with the Street Fighter Anniversary stuff. But it's a Titanfall 2 thing of like when you go to play multiplayer, it just shows every game's logo on there and you can toggle each one on and off. So you can kind of just say like, hey, I don't think anyone's ever going to be matching up for a game of Pocket Fighter. So I'll just say, I'll turn on every single game in the collection and say, match me up with somebody. I don't care. I'll play anything. Or if you're just like, no, I'm going to play Pocket Fighter. I'm sorry, Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix. Then you can do that as well. In fact, actually, I turned on everything and hit go, and the first game I got into was Pocket Fighter. That's cool. That's a ridiculous game. It takes the kind of chibi versions of the Street Fighter characters from Puzzle Fighter and puts them back into a fighting game, and they do some kind of easy control type stuff there. It's neat. I don't know. Like, again, there are a billion different ways to play these games. But here they have official online support and all that stuff. I don't think I believe that this was something that was solved back when they announced it, but I don't think that it does have cross-play. Which is a shame. I played most of my Pocket Fighter on the PlayStation 1, I believe. Oh, wait. Oh, good news, everyone. Embargo update. Sonic Frontiers. Hands-on cyberspace levels. This is an email from 10:44 a.m. this morning. Thank you for holding your coverage of Sonic Frontiers cyberspace content under wraps. You can now post your impressions from your Summer Game Fest hands-on session. You do not need to hold coverage until tomorrow, 6/29. Sonic goes to cyberspace in Sonic Frontiers. I have recorded a whole separate video about this that is ready to go on YouTube. I guess, well, I'm not going to publish it right now because we're here right now. But when this podcast is over, I will go push the button on a video I recorded yesterday. Let me pull up here. I'll give you a teaser for the title of the video. A lot of Sonic talk today. This is not, I don't like this. There will be a video going up on the YouTube channel later today. It is titled, "A 46-year-old man talks to you about Sonic Frontiers from underneath his Sonic the Hedgehog sheets." Look for that. The cyberspace levels so if you watched the Nintendo Direct this morning, they showed this, the cyberspace levels. Cyberspace, that's the name they came up with. And it's behind the back, like 3D Sonic levels. They're in there. You find these portals, you bring these gears to these portals, you open up the portals, and then it teleports you. It goes through a whole load out of the open zone gameplay into a more traditional 3D Sonic kind of level. Again, if you know anything about me, you know that this is not a big selling point. Perhaps this is something that helps people. Do I pronounce it cyberspace or cyberspace? I will say that they keep, they do in the email. Gosh, sorry. Let me pull this email back up and I can tell. They are writing cyberspace as 2 words, capital C, capital S, which I think is a very ridiculous way to write cyberspace. That's it. That's the thing. There was 2 separate embargoes for Sonic Frontiers, and they had a separate embargo on the cyberspace levels, presumably because they knew they intended to reveal it as a part of this Nintendo Direct, and so they didn't want people talking about it before then. Yeah, I don't know. You can do the homing attack and run and jump and all this other stuff, but yes, there's other stuff about the cyberspace stuff out there as well. Because I think I don't know if people took footage I don't know what happened. Anyway, Capcom Fighting Evolution, back to what we were talking about, is available now. I've been playing a little more Neon White. I am warming up to its story. When we played it last week, streamed a little bit of it, I was like, man, this story is really it's a lot. Yes, sorry, did I say Evolution again? Yes, Capcom Fighting Jam. There was Capcom. I went to an arcade show in Japan and played the canceled, like what eventually kind of they eventually did Capcom Fighting Evolution or Fighting Jam or whatever, but there was a game before that they showed at this arcade show that was kind of a similar concept in terms of having like these Capcom fighting characters together in one game. And I played a bunch of that and I was like, this seems okay. And then it got canceled and that was a bummer. Neon White, when you get, yes, Capcom Fighting All-Stars. That game seemed potentially cool when I played it. The writing in Neon White was really not doing it for me. It just, I don't know. It just had a bad kind of, how to put it? It's, not horny enough. Not horny in the right way. Horny in a way that's like awkward and not as I don't know. Like it's not like the writing felt very off to me, and I don't know. But then Neon White, when you get to the hub world and you get to go around and do some of the kind of social link style stuff of giving people some gifts and opening up more dialogue options and that sort of stuff. I don't know. Some of the writing kind of warmed up, or I warmed up to some of the writing, I guess, at that point. And there's a dumb John Cena joke in it. Maybe that's all it takes. I don't know. Maybe that's all it takes. But I don't know. I enjoyed going back into the levels I'd already completed and collecting the presents to give to the characters and stuff like that. So I don't know. DNF Duel just came out. I feel like I've been like missing a chance to play DNF Duel over and over again for the last 6 months or however long it's been. I know they've done multiple betas and stuff like that. It is now just available. But I have not played much of it. I checked that out a little bit this morning, and I am not sure how I feel about it, but again, I literally put like 20 minutes into it and was like, I have not found a character in DNF Duel. This is an Arc Systems fighting game, so it's got that look to it. I don't think it looks as good as Guilty Gear or some of the other stuff that they have done. That's my kind of initial take on the visuals, I guess. I don't know the feel of it. So it's like your use of specials is governed by the amount of MP you have, and you have a meter that is regenerating. So there's just a button devoted to that. So it seems like most of your kind of special attack things come out of that and are governed by that meter. And that's not something that like initially kind of moves me, but I need to play more of it. I literally got like 2 matches in and I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm having a terrible time with this. I need to look at the tutorial because I'm very clearly missing something here. And then I started going through the tutorial and was like, oh, okay, all right, these systems now make a little bit more sense. And then didn't have time to go apply that at all. So yeah, that's out now. I want to spend some more time with it. Initially it just seemed a little weird. But yeah, you know, I have not had time. We'll hopefully have more to say about that next week. And then one last thing, I'm going to check here and see if this is still running. There's a closed beta for Disney Speedstorm. This looks like the beta is still running. This is a Gameloft game. It's on Steam. It looks like a very free-to-play kart racer. And I don't know that I have too much to say about it other than it sure has a bunch of different currencies in it and all this other stuff. And but it has a pretty nice look to it overall, like just the visual motif of, I don't know, the style of the levels and carts and all that stuff. Like it looks relatively nice. but also the music is so fucking extra. It's so much. It is like, it feels so out of time. It feels like someone made this music 10 years ago or more and just forgot to do anything with it until now. It is like these dubstep remixes of Disneyland classics in some cases. It's like, it's very generic dubstep, and then also fucking kids going MICKEYMOU. It's just, whew. The music is on YouTube. You can find it out there. It's music that belongs on a Track Mania server, to be honest, and that's the highest compliment you can give to any racing game's music, I suppose. And so yeah, I don't know. I was very surprised by that. I'm glad I gave it a look. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get into the news and talk about, somehow we're going to talk about Chris Pratt again. I guess that's just the world we live in now. We'll be back in a sec. I was at a point where I would wake up after a night of drinking feeling just so worn out that I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to drink less. I'm going to not drink. I'm scared of this. I don't have time to wake up feeling like trash. And it just wasn't great. Now there's an alternative. Do you want to hear about it? You do? Fantastic. It's Z-Biotics. Because we've all got busy lives and you just can't afford to waste a day just laying around on the couch just because you had a few drinks the night before. Z-Biotics. That's the answer that you've been looking for. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct into the gut. That's acetaldehyde. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. All you got to do is drink a Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol. It's these tiny little bottles. There's not much of a flavor to it. You just get that back. You drink responsibly, get a good night's sleep, and you will feel your best tomorrow. That's so cool. There's been a ton of just like gas station solutions for this that are just seem like absolute snake oil. PhD scientists. The first genetically engineered probiotic. I've seen one or two people in the Discord that got a hold of their Z-Biotics and have said that it's working out for them, and that's pretty awesome. So maybe you want to give Z-Biotics a try for yourself. I drank one of these, and I had a couple of seltzers, alcoholic seltzers that were all the rage. Last year or the year before, but they still sell them. My wife bought a case. I was like, all right, let's get going. Yeah, woke up feeling A-okay. And that's pretty awesome. Now you can give Z-Biotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/Jeff to get 15% off your first order when you use the code Jeff at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/Jeff and use the code Jeff at checkout for 15% off. And thanks to Z-Biotics for sponsoring the episode. Okay, we're back. I keep pushing the wrong button there on the video. Hi. Let's get into the news. Nintendo Direct to you with gaming information. This morning, Nintendo held a short video, 25-ish minutes, showcasing a handful of third-party products. This was, well, I don't know. There's definitely stuff. There was stuff in this announcement that is extremely exciting. And I don't know. I woke up, so I did not watch this live. I woke up and I just kind of saw a lot of people talking mess about it. But I don't know. Look, they're gonna put Mega Man Battle Network out on the Switch, and that's enough for me. This is a collection. This is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. It is going to contain, well, geez, I mean, if you remember correctly, they did Pokemon style split versions of the later versions of this. So you've got coming to the Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC, according to Polygon.com. You've got Mega Man Battle Network. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 2. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 3 White. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 4 Blue Moon. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 4 Red Sun. You've got Mega Man Battle Network 5 Team Proto Man. You got Mega Man Battle Network 5 Team Colonel. Mega Man Battle Network 6 Psybeast Gregar. And Mega Man Battle Network 6 Psybeast Falzar. My understanding is that if you collect these digitally, these will be split into 2 volumes. Two separate purchases on the eShop, and then the retail version, the retail copies of the game will contain all of them. All of them. I did not play the later games in the Mega Man Battle Network franchise. I think I just played 1 and 2. And these are very cool games. They are, I'm going to say somewhat card-based, where you are equipping battle chips and standing on a grid and using your battle chips to attack and enemies standing on the other side of the grid. But the concept is that Mega Man is like your computer buddy who lives inside your cyberspace deck or whatever. And so you're going around and jacking into washing machines and all this other stuff, and then you are deploying megaman.exe. Like in Japan, these are just called Rockman.exe, which is an amazing name for a thing. But you are deploying your Mega Man avatar into the different items around your house and different cyberspace jacks and ports, and hanging out with your friends in cyberspace and fucking fighting. And they're cool as hell. They're extremely cool games. I don't know if they stayed cool through the entire run of 6. I think once they started splitting them into 2 versions and kind of, you're like, oh, right, yeah, I don't know, this whole Pokemon thing, I don't know if this is something I necessarily want to spend a bunch of time with. And so I kind of fell off of the franchise, but conceptually, those first couple of games, or just conceptually the concept for the franchise about like this direction for Mega Man as like you being a kid taking Mega Man and using him to fucking crack the black ice and hack the fucking Gibsons and, I don't know, smash the Zaibatsu, whatever you're doing by the end of those games. Just the kind of like Neuromancer for children. I don't know, like that whole concept really worked for me. It was just an awesome idea and a great direction to take Mega Man in at the time. These were Game Boy Advance games, right? Yeah. And just super fun. So I'm excited that those are coming out sometime in 2023. So that's a ways off. So like that right there is like, okay, that's cool. That's cool that the Nintendo Direct happened and that the game is coming out. The rest of it, they if you remember, there was a bit of a hubbub over the past couple of weeks because Konami said they were going to shut down their most recent Bomberman, and people were like, boy, that sure was a neat game for what it was. So of course you're shutting it down. They are planning to release Super Bomberman R2 next year. So I don't know. I wonder if because they sold DLC for that. Like you could get the New Day. Was it the full members of the New Day, or was it just Woods? I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, also Pyramid Head. what was in there of Pyramid Head fame. And then Return to Monkey Island was shown. They put a date on the Mario and Rabbids game. That's going to be October 20th. That's cool. They showed the Sonic Frontiers cyberspace mode. Live a lot. I forget every time. We don't talk about Live Alive nearly often enough, because I can never remember if it's Live Alive or Live Alive. Anyway, there's a demo. Your progress will transfer over. That game is out in like a month. That game is out on July 22nd. A new Doraemon Story of Seasons or Doraemon Story of Seasons for the Switch. Minecraft Legends for the Switch. That's that Minecraft RTS-y kind of thing. And then today, Portal Companion Collection. Portal and Portal 2 are out on the Switch. That's neat. Let's go back a bit, though. Namco is going to remaster Pac-Man World. I don't know why. This is a 3D platformer starring Pac-Man that originally came out in '99 for the PlayStation 1. And there was also a GBA version. The composer on Pac-Man World, according to Wikipedia, that's right, Tommy Tallarico. In fact, Tallarico was doing quite a bit of Namco work in this era, if I remember correctly. Anyway, they're putting out Pac-Man World Repack. I don't understand. I don't understand. Pac-Man World, I remember as being a neat idea that maybe wasn't executed the way you wanted it to be. It's been obviously, that game came out in '99. I don't think I reviewed it. I probably looked at it and fucked with it a little bit, but I don't think I played a bunch of it. So I can't. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, but I don't remember anything about Pac-Man World being remarkable or worth remaking. This trailer that they put out looks pretty nice. They're going to remaster it and gussy it up and all that stuff. And you're like, okay, I guess you could put Pac-Man. I mean, they're putting out. Look, Namco is putting the Klonoa games out again, so they can do whatever. Like they're doing that at least. They're like, okay, here you go. Here's Klonoa and Klonoa 2, and you're like, fucking yeah, Klonoa, hell yeah, Klonoa. And then they're like, we're gonna do Pac-Man World 2. You're like, fine, I'll be over here playing Klonoa. I don't give a shit. Put out Pac-Man World all day long. Whatever you want to do, it's fine. So yeah, I don't know. That's a really weird. That's just a really weird thing for them to be doing. I don't understand. Like, are we going to re-release all of these kind of like B to C tier platformers that came out in that era? Are we going to get every single kind of whatever platformer from the PlayStation 1 just shat out again? Well, not shat out. This remake doesn't. This remaster. It looks okay. Looks all right. Yeah, some people in the chat are asking about Glover. It's not. Look, Glover, I think it made its way to Steam or will be soon. So I don't know. Put Pandemonium back out. What's Crystal Dynamics doing now that they've been sold? They could put Pandemonium out. And yes, Gex. Fine. I'll say the word Gex. Can we stop talking about Gex? All those games were always bad, right? Like, there's not like a... Boy, Gex sure was good. That's not a thing. The Japanese version of the Nintendo Direct has an Ultraman-themed Monster Rancher in it. As if you needed, like, some kind of... And they didn't put that in the US version of the thing, which is super depressing, because what would be cool? A a new Monster Rancher. B, one where you hatched fucking Ultraman monsters. Hopefully this thing will eventually see its way to other regions. Ultra Kaiju Monster Farm, it's being called. And you'll use the NFC reader on the Switch to fucking make monsters. How awesome is that? I mean, maybe that's why they're not doing it over. I don't know. I feel like NFC stuff has not really gained acceptance maybe the way it has in Japan. You have your Suica card and some of your other transit cards and stuff like that. I'm sure some cities in America make more use of NFC stuff than others. But I'm trying to think how many things do I have that have NFC chips in them. It's not that many. Right, yes, the game, I think this is, so they re-released, they did a kind of new Monster Rancher relatively recently, and in lieu of being able to use CDs, because honestly it's 2022 and who has CDs and which consoles have CD readers in them, they came up with a solution around like, we have a database of CDs and you can kind of pluck one out of there and do that. So I think they're going to use that as well. So that means you could use your Amiibos or your phone, which you could make pretend to be an Amiibo under some circumstances. I don't know. So yeah, the idea of a new Monster Rancher, the idea of it using NFC stuff, like that just throws back to like Barcode Battler. And honestly, I wish that it was just barcodes instead of NFC stuff, because the idea of Barcode Battler being a thing where you like, okay, we're going to generate monsters based on product barcodes and then make them fight. That's a winning idea. That's such an awesome idea. And then Monster Rancher, I feel like kind of came out of that with all the CD stuff and so on and so forth. Chris Pratt is out there. We talked about him last week because Chris Meledandri, the head of Illumination Entertainment, was out there defending Chris Pratt and saying that his voice work was phenomenal and so on and so forth. Now we've got Chris Pratt talking to Variety about a variety of things. Woo! According to Chris Pratt, this is according to Variety. According to Chris Pratt, his voice performance as Mario in the upcoming feature adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers video game will be, quote, unlike anything you've heard. Unlike anything you've heard. They snatched, I think they snatched that quote. There's a larger quote here. Let's see. There's been so much internet discussion about Pratt's casting, his non-Italian background. Chris Meledandri defended him. Pratt echoed Meledandri's sentiment, telling Variety that Mario's voice has been, quote, updated. I worked really closely with the directors and trying out a few things and landed on something that I'm really proud of and can't wait for people to see and hear. It's an animated voiceover narrative. It's not a live action movie. I'm not going to be wearing a plumber suit running all over. I'm providing a voice for an animated character, and it is updated and unlike anything you've heard in the Mario world before. It was known that this was an animated film, but there's something really weird about him that being the quote. It comes off as like a little like, I'm not going to be wearing a plumber suit running around. Like, it's a fucking it's a cartoon. I'm doing a fucking cartoon voice. Leave me alone, you dicks. What do you think about the Supreme Court decision, Chris? It's an animated voiceover narrative. It's not a live action movie. I'm not going to be wearing a plumber suit running all over. I'm providing a voice for an animated character, and it is updated and unlike anything you've heard in the Mario world before. So, okay, that's a really wide that gives him a lot of that is a really wide thing of like, okay, you've never heard it in the Mario world before. You're like, okay, like there's a lot of things I haven't heard in the Mario world before. Cursing, I haven't heard. Popular hip-hop star Eminem, Marshall Mathers, I've not heard his voice in the Mario universe before. Yeah, I don't know. I just like there's the amount of focus, and I guess like we're doing this right. This is just as much. This is just as much on us. This is just as much on me and you and all of us as it is on Pratt and Meledandri and all of the people that are out here giving these quotes, right? Because like the press is just asking because there are people, because it's on everyone wants to know, what is Mario going to sound like? And so he has to be in this situation where he's just like, it's updated. It's unlike anything you've heard in the Mario world before. Like there's no reason to like it's a voice for a fucking Mario movie. It shouldn't fucking building it up like this, which I don't think is necessarily their intent, but literally, it's unlike anything you've heard in the Mario world before. Like, what? I don't. I mean, maybe it's going to be fucking absolutely mind blowing. I mean, he's going to sing or something, right? But what the? You're voicing a dude. I mean, it's Mario, right? So it matters. And like Mario's voice is so... I can't talk about this anymore. I can't. I fucking can't. We'll all hear the voice someday and we will be ashamed of our words and deeds, I guess. Like, I feel like we're 1 week away from him saying that. All these people out here talking shit, you're going to be ashamed of your words and deeds when you hear my Mario voice. I just... It's insane that... I mean, it's a hard problem to solve, right? You're going to make a Mario movie and Mario's voice is not something that carries for 90 minutes. What do you do? Right? I mean, what do you do? So I understand why there is a focus on it, but the way that there keeps being new quotes here for 2 weeks in a row about the fucking Mario voice, like they are building a hype about it. And I don't know if that's their intent or if they're just trying to answer the questions, but like they're ridiculous. Stealth, better known as Simon Thomley, who works at Headcanon. They're the studio that did the work on Sonic Origins. Did not all of it, I guess. Some of the video game part of Sonic Origins was them. This is a weird... You don't see this very often. He took to Twitter on the 23rd of June and posted a thread basically saying, hey, this game has problems. Sorry, it's not all our fault, but it's not all our fault. It's a I don't know, like, yes, someone in chat just said he's throwing Sega under the bus. I don't think that's the case here. This feels more so like an indictment of just this is how video game development is sometimes. But I don't know that going and posting this publicly helps anything. Well, okay, I don't know. So Sonic Origins came out. Some people are not super happy about different aspects of the game. And so there's a long thread here on Twitter. I'll just kind of paraphrase some of it here, take some chunks here. This is frustrating. I won't lie and say that there weren't issues in what we gave to Sega, but what is in Origins is also not what we turned in. Integration introduced some wild bugs that conventional logic would have one believe were our responsibility. A lot of them aren't. So it sounds like, the work they did had to get integrated into the full product, which obviously has menus and shells and premium fun and coins and whatever else. So whatever work they did, presumably Headcanon, which I believe that's the studio that is known for doing the recent Sonic game that people liked, Sonic Mania, among other things. People are unhappy with this product for a variety of reasons. And so, he's kind of explaining their role in the project, which is fine. Okay, so they did the Sonic 3 work, right? They did the port there. They built their own collision engine. They built a bunch of stuff around that. So regarding Origins, we were outsiders creating a separate project that was then wrangled into something entirely different. We knew going in that there would be a major time crunch, and we worked ourselves into the ground to meet it, just so this would even be made and released. Again, I can take responsibility for my and my team's mistakes, and there were some actual mistakes, some overlooking, some rush jobs, and some stuff we noticed but weren't allowed to correct near the end. It's absolutely not perfect, and some of it is from us. It's complicated. I'm extremely proud of my team for their performance under such pressure, but every one of us is very unhappy about the state of Origins and even the Sonic 3 component. We weren't too thrilled about its pre-submission state either, but a lot was beyond our control. And there's some of this that's just like, okay, this isn't, there's aspects of this that you're like, man, this isn't how game development kind of works anywhere, as far as I know. But this one here, we asked to do major fixes near submission, but weren't allowed due to submission and approval rules. Yeah. We asked about delays early and repeatedly, but were told they weren't possible. We offered to come back for post-release fixes and updates. We do not yet know if this is happening. We want these problems to be addressed. We provided a ton of feedback during and after development for both Origins and its Sonic 3 integration. We've done a good chunk of work after our work term was over to fix things, support Sega, and to prepare for future updates. So, they're going to get locked in on a release date, and we can have the argument about like why does that need to be the release date and all this other stuff, and like, okay, they probably got manufacturing they need to do for like retail copies, right? They're doing retail. They've got deadlines that are hard deadlines, and they asked early on it says here that they asked for a delay early on, didn't get it. Is it digital? I could have sworn that they were doing retail copies of Sonic Origins. Is that no, it's digital. It's digital only. Okay. All right. I thought that maybe that is something they're going to look to do after the fact. I'm not sure. I thought I heard that they were doing that, but maybe I'm wrong. Still, you have your release window. You have to hit it. The deadlines exist for a reason. Submission is a very rigid process. Like, it's when you submit the game, like, yeah, you can be working on fixes, but like if you've already submitted a build, it's in submission. You can't update it without starting the entire submission process over again. And all, like there's whatever. That's my understanding of it. I'm sure actually a person in a stealth situation is probably even more aware of some of that stuff. So it's interesting to me to hear that stuff brought up, because like if you're trying to do major fixes near submission, you're like, okay, well, this has to come out, but at the same time, that stuff that could be in a first patch, that stuff that could be in a day one patch, a week one patch, something like that. There's stuff like that seems like it could have happened here. Or at least they could be out there talking about, but instead he's talking about this. So I don't know. He says, I have to apologize for not addressing anything like this sooner, but you must understand many things of this sort are considered unprofessional and can hurt our relationship with Sega, meaning no Origins updates and no further 2D pixel Sonic games from us. Why am I talking about it now then? Well, there's just too much scrutiny over things that both are and are not related to us, and I don't want to sit back in silence while people are asking why and how things happened to a product they put so much hope and money into. I hear you, headcanon hears you. We wanted this to be right then and now. There's so much you'll never know or understand within this realm of this kind of work, but no one understands this. We try our best to our own detriment, and we care about our work and about Sonic. Mistake number one, caring about Sonic. No. It's just a really weird thread to post, to be like, because honestly, the best chance to try to get that work in, to try to make that happen, is to not post this, is to continue to work with the people you've been working with at Sega. And there's someone else at the company, there's other stuff on Twitter where they're saying like, oh, the people we worked with at Sega on this, hey, they went through the ringer too, and they were great people to work with, and there's great people there. So, it's not, obviously there's just someone in the way they are painting it is that there's someone in some kind of bean countery position up there making those decisions, which of course saying no. Like, what? How many more copies will the game sell if we fix this? 0? Okay, we're gonna sell it. Your patch stuff, we'll figure that out later if it's gonna happen, if it's not gonna happen, whatever. I'd also say that Sega has proven time and time again that they are not super invested in the remakes and re-releases of their old stuff, and that Sonic Origins, from a distance, from when it was announced, looked fucked up. From the way they were breaking out the DLC and all this other stuff, like nothing about this product looked like it was, here it is, the definitive Sonic the Hedgehog product. I mean, obviously people are going to take the marketing messaging differently than I do, where I look at it and go like, yeah, fucking sure. Okay, yeah, you're going to really nail it, Sonic. You're going to get it this time. So yeah, I don't know. It's, that's got to be a frustrating situation to be like, hey, I really care about the work that my studio has done. And also, like, the headcanon people have built something of a reputation of being the people that care about Sonic. And so when this comes out, obviously there's going to be a lot of people coming at them being like, hey, fuckers, I thought you were the people that cared about Sonic. Why is this thing fucked? And so at some point, these people broke and said, all right, here's why. And let people know. And we'll see what happens next. I feel like if I were the types of jerks at Sega that were making these calls in the first place, I would be like, oh, well, we're never working with them again. This product can die as far as I care. Like, we're on to the next thing. Like, fuck, no. What, are you going to work with them some more? No, they're done forever. Done. Get them out. If they're out there acting this way, I don't know. So yeah, I think when he says like, hey, me saying this is maybe to the detriment of our relationship, like, yep, you are right. I completely agree. And I don't think that it was worth you. And again, I don't know the full story, right? I don't know the full story about what happened. He's giving his side of the story. We don't know the Sega side, but also like he's not giving the full version of his side either, because there's some lines he's not willing to cross when it comes to burying the people responsible. I can relate. I can really relate. So it's, but yeah, this does not help the product get better. I don't think that this is the sort of thing that helps a product get better in the long run. You kind of have to, eat that shit and try to get it done through your back channel methods. If all else fails and you've got like, oh man, Sega sure is totally icing us out and not letting us do anything of this nature, then maybe at some point you go public with it, At some point you're like, hey, we tried every single thing. We tried every single official. We offered to do this work for free. I've known studios, I've known developers that have worked on patches and paid for them themselves because it was worth it for their image. It was worth it for their brand to make sure that that game was right, no matter what. So other studios have ended up in that situation before, but I don't think you go out there and publicly get into it. I don't think anything good comes from that. I think that I understand why someone would be super frustrated, especially people that care so much about this product and the products upon which they are based. I think that it's an understandable level of frustration, but unless you've worked every single angle you can think of, unless you've gone in there and said like, hey, we're doing, and what do you post publicly? Maybe nothing, but maybe because you're the developer, you're not the publisher. It's the publisher's job to communicate about the game. I mean, you have your studio that you have to care about as well. So at some point, I get the point of just like, hey, we hear you. We're looking into it, like whatever you can kind of say to acknowledge like, yep, we're talking. Nothing to say right now. Nothing to say at this time. While you work all those angles. And then if you get to a point where like, hey, this business relationship is torched either way because they're not going to let us fix it and we're really unhappy about that, then hey, maybe you get out there and post something about that and just say, well, fuck it. Here it is. So, yeah. this just seems like a weird way to open, I guess, is my point. But we'll see what comes of it. I don't know. Like, does this lead to more work being done on Sonic Origins? Does this work on stuff getting fixed? Because obviously there are some people that want changes, both at the developer and the public. So it'd be nice if that game got to where everyone was at least reasonably happy with it. And we'll see if it gets there. This thread, again, as an outsider looking in, not really having any additional insight into this specific situation, to me, this does not seem like a way to get to where anyone wants to be, which is a fixed product. Like, this just seems like it distracts from that and prevents that from happening. So I don't know. Again, though, sometimes you just get pissed. Very understandable. Very understandable. The Sonic train keeps going. Yuji Naka. This is almost non-news, but Yuji Naka got on Twitter after Sonic Origins came out and posted, "Oh my God, the music for Sonic 3 has changed, even though Sega official uses Michael Jackson's music." So they did change the music in Sonic 3 based on some of the prototype stuff, and this has been known, but there hasn't been a smoking gun in this situation. The idea that Michael Jackson, in some way, shape, or form, contributed to the music in Sonic 3. The guy, Brad Buxer, which is a great name, who was a keyboardist for Michael Jackson, has also talked about it, and he said that perhaps Michael was not happy with the way the songs were being implemented and some of that other stuff, and that Brad Buxer did the majority of the work on actually getting the music into the game. If I'm reading some of this correctly, there's been a lot of videos over the years, Sonic conspiracy theorists trying to piece together, their twine on the board stuff to get it all, and then Yuji Naka just comes out there and tweets it. Because he would know. And I think later on he then posted, like, here's a picture of me in a helicopter at the Neverland Ranch. All this other stuff. There's no reason not to say that, hey, this happened. But, like, the Jackson was not credited on the final release, supposedly because he was not happy with the way the songs got integrated and all that sort of stuff. But again, some of that bit is speculation. It's a really weird situation. And hopefully this kind of, like, just sort of puts that thing to bed. You've got Yuji frickin' Naka, of anyone to blame about the existence of Sonic the Hedgehog. Yuji Naka is right up there at the top, baby. But whatever, man. After the Balan Wonderworld stuff, Naka's got nothing. He's just like, fuck it, we're shooting, cowboy. Let's get out here and make it happen. And I love that. I love that for him. So interesting to kind of put that to bed, I guess. But the tracks getting removed and not being in this Sonic Origins release and some of that other stuff is still weird, because you would think that they would have the rights to use them. I don't know how music works, so who knows? A brief story about From Software. This is coming from 4Gamer, a Japanese publication by way of Polygon, who has read through the interview and stuff and kind of pieced some stuff together. Miyazaki saying that there are more Elden Ring updates planned, but that the interview doesn't necessarily make it clear that that's additional content or additional fixes or something like that. They have yet to announce any kind of DLC for that game, but presumably you would see something in there. But I think perhaps more interestingly, Miyazaki also indicates that he is in the process of directing his next game, according to one Michael McWhorter, and that he wants to tackle a more abstract approach to fantasy. And of course, From Software has grown quite a bit, so there are multiple teams at that studio doing things and all that sort of stuff. So that then continues to leave the door open for this supposed Armored Core game that leaked out of some months back. which would be interesting. I don't know. Like the Armored Core was one of those games. We were talking earlier about like sometimes there are just games that are just like for a specific subset of people and the rest of the people don't want anything to do with Armored Core was very much one of those games. And I wonder if they will find a way to widen the appeal of Armored Core. Or if players are just more ready for that style of mecha game in this day and age. I would be interested to see what a new Armored Core might look like in 2023 or whatever. But at the same time, I can't sit here and say like I'm a diehard Armored Core fan. Like it was never really my thing. It never really clicked for me. Speaking of not my thing, that's perhaps a shitty. Anyway, Hyenas. Sega has another game announced here from Creative Assembly. It appears to be a zero gravity competitive shooter. Is it hobby grade? I don't know. But you are basically coming together to try to steal stuff, and the stuff you are stealing. So they put a trailer out for this, and there's like a sentence like IGN debuted it. And people keep typing the word lawbreakers out every time this game comes up, which I'm sure bodes well. Earth is gone. The rich have colonized Mars, and the rest of humanity is living their worst life in the taint, a giant orbiting slum. It's insane, this humanity's taint. While humanity's trying to survive, the Mars billionaires are more worried about fulfilling their nostalgic dreams. Plunder ships, massive retail spacecrafts dedicated to selling salvaged pop culture artifacts from Earth, our artifacts, at space-high prices to satisfy their desires. And so it sounds like the giant orbiting slum in Hyenas is called the Taint. And so hopefully there are missions like Taint Misbehavin', and so on and so forth. This looks like a competitive shooter where players are fighting over the loot referred to in the game, whether that's like a Rubik's Cube or a Sonic the Hedgehog figurine or something like that. And it's a zero gravity shooter, I guess. The trailer, yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, people keep typing lawbreakers whenever this game comes up, and I kind of agree. I understand why people would say that. It's a bummer. It's you hate to have an announcement trailer for a game just be like, I don't, no thanks. I don't want to see anything more about. Don't put another one of these trailers out. But this one landed kind of foul for me. I don't know. It was just like, all right, this just looks like another, like this looks like it fits right in with the Ubisoft free to, like the Ubisoft shooters they keep like putting out into closed beta and never shipping or whatever. The other one, Bleeding Edge. People are also mentioning that, like, yeah, there's definitely something there. And I can't remember. X-Defiant. Yes, that's the name of the Ubisoft game that I cannot think of. That is still not out. Gamescom's coming up here end of August. Sony has announced that they are not going to be there. Nintendo, I think, was the last company to say, yeah, we're not going to go there either. So I'm not really sure what Gamescom is going to look like this year. If this is just a further realization of just like, hey, we don't need to go to specific events to show our stuff. We can just show our stuff. Ubisoft, however, will be at Gamescom. They were like, nope, we're going. We'll be there. So look forward to that. Yesterday was Atari's 50th birthday. Happy birthday to Atari. How far you've come. Ugh. Right? 1972 was the launch of Atari and Pong and all that other stuff. It's crazy to think now that Atari was such an important brand to the history of gaming that the first big rush for home consoles was really led by the Atari 2600, and a variety of really good games. Yar's Revenge and Outlaw. Like, that's a good version of Space Invaders. That's a decent version of Asteroids for its day. Adventure is a classic. They made the only good Superman video game. It's a decent version of Defender, like arcade ports that came to the 2600 obviously had to be reduced in quality quite a bit, but some of them were still pretty fun games in their own right. Of course, the 2600 gave rise to Activision, the first third-party publisher, and they did, I think, even better work than Atari did then with stuff like Pitfall and Keystone Capers and Mega Mania and River Raid and all this sort of stuff. But I don't know, man. I rode with Atari for a good long time. The Atari 8-bit home computer, the 400, the 800, those were my first computers. And they were awesome. The hardware was basically like the Atari 5200, if you're familiar with that at all. And then Atari post-crash, post-83, just never felt like they figured it out ever again. I love the Lynx. I love the Atari Lynx. That handheld, it was weird and long. They made a smaller one, of course. But that's a good version of California Games. Like, there's a good chunk of fun games on the Lynx. It's a powerful enough system. I'll take it over a Game Gear any day. Do the math. And then the Jaguar. The Jaguar is a disaster. Like, just the Atari Jaguar felt bad out of the gate. I remember seeing it around the time it was released and, just going to various trade shows and stuff like that. And watching them push the Jaguar at the same time as like the 3DO was coming along and just all these platforms that were like, the Jaguar was not expensive the way the 3DO was. But I don't know. I got my hands on a Jaguar back then, and I played a lot of Wolfenstein on the Jag. I don't know why. I had already played so much of it on PC by then. It's a decent version of Doom. There's that creepy cybermorph with the bald lady, which I don't think is a very good game. I never thought it was a very good game. It's a good version of Cannon Fodder. I don't know. Like, in a world where I did not play a ton of games on an Amiga, the Jaguar had some of that stuff. A lot of people like Alien vs. Predator. I don't. Just never did. But Tempest 2000 was there, and that's a hell of a game. It's funny, just the other night, we were watching some Jaguar promo videos of like some of their commercials, but then just a bunch of game footage. And so it was just like seeing back a lot of footage of Jaguar games and just being like, man, this stuff, so much of it is it just kind of sucked. And then some of it was fine, but it was like games you could maybe in some cases play on other platforms or what have you. Like the number of games on the Jaguar that I would be like, okay, these are the standout games. Like today, right now, if you were going to play a Jaguar, here's what you should play. I feel like that list is really just Tempest. And Tempest 2000 has been re-released and updated and all this other stuff like 5 or 6 times at this point. And then, I don't know, Atari at some point became Infogrames. The French company Infogrames bought the Atari name and then rebranded itself as Atari. And so you had like Test Drive coming out from Atari, or like what, like Le Mans 24-hour, like whatever stuff Infogrames was doing was suddenly had the Atari logo on it. Atari put out the Driver game. Atari put out Driver 3. That's ridiculous. But the Atari name just got handed around and passed around so many different ways over the years, where the rights to the home, it was like there was Atari Inc. and Atari Games, and then one got sold off to Midway and the other got sold off to someone else. And so like there's the IP split up in all these weird ways, like the breakup of Atari and just all the strange things that have happened with that brand, where like suddenly Hasbro owned Atari and just like a bunch of weird stuff over the years. Like it never meant anything other than nostalgia, and they kept slapping that logo and like shittier versions of the Atari logo too. Like the 2600 era Atari logo is perfect. It's sharp. It's the curves, the angles are just right. And then you go and look at like what they did to it over the years. You go look at like the Dreamcast era Atari logo, or even the modern, which I think is actually pretty much the same. Something about those curves look like shit by comparison in that logo. And now they're in the fucking blockchain shit. So, that's not all they're doing. They've tried to dig themselves out of whatever hellscape that they were in, and whether it was, and now they're working on something called Atari Mania, which appears to be a WarioWare-esque, Hot Pixel-esque collection of micro games based on Atari classics, which has that holds some appeal. That could be kind of cool. And then they've been doing all these recharged versions of some of their old games. We talked about Gravatar last week. That's one of theirs. And all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Atari is just such a weird thing, and now they own Moby Games. I don't know how that happens. Just a strange trip it's been for Atari. And not to end on a bit of a down note, but to end on a bit of a down note, Bernie Stollar passed away age 75. Stollar best remembered for his days at Sega. He was pretty instrumental at Sony during the rise of the PlayStation. And he eventually became the person to replace Tom Kalinske at Sega when he moved on. And so he took the reins somewhere in the Saturn era, and then, I believe it was an EGM interview where he just says, the Saturn is not our future. Like, you look at it, you're like, yeah, totally. Of course it's not. He brought in Peter Moore from Reebok, I want to say. This is a nice piece from Venture Beat, going around kind of collecting some of the interviews with him over the years. And, I think now when you look back on the internal politics at Sega between the Sega of America and SOJ, and how absolutely fucked that relationship was. I don't know if it still is. I don't know. Sega is a very different company now, but yeah, the Saturn was a disaster. The way they launched it was it was exciting on the player end, but the business end of launching the Saturn as a surprise ended up being disastrous in a handful of ways. The Saturn just never felt like it was equipped to compete with the PlayStation on a number of levels from a hardware based level. And so I think Del the Funky Homo Sapien was wrong. If you go back and listen to the song Proto Culture, this is, the Sega people are weird. Sega fans are monsters. And the ire that they held for Stollar in the years following Saturn was really something else. Here's Del blaming Bernie. The line in the song is Bernie stole. It's a whole song about video games. If you're not familiar with it, it's quite good. It's an astounding track. But Del says, Bernie Stollar dropped the ball with the RAM cartridge. X-Men versus Street Fighter could have expanded the market. No, it fucking could not have. Listen to what you're saying, man. You're going to put out a more expensive than average game because it has to ship with a RAM card. You're saying, okay, what you're trying to say here is you saying if they put out the RAM cartridge in the US, that would have changed Sega's fortunes. Saturn would have been, whew. That would have been it. They would have saved Sega if X-Men versus Street Fighter would have come out in the US. Abso-fucking-lutely not. And hey, that's a killer version of X-Men versus Street Fighter. Don't get me wrong. And the RAM cartridge is cool as hell. I think anyone who's played Saturn stuff and seen the full library, the Japanese lineup, all that other stuff, I think X-Men versus Street Fighter is a pretty cool fighting game. Putting it out in the US would not have changed anything about Sega's fortunes here. Compared to where the PlayStation was compared to the types of games that the mainstream public was looking for at that time. A 2D fighting game was not going to get it done. Period. They were going up against Tomb Raider, which had been completely like embraced as like a PlayStation icon. You know what I mean? Like there was the mainstream fervor for Lara Croft appearing on, and obviously that game came out on the Saturn. It was not the ideal version of the game. People were already moving so far in the direction of PlayStation at this point that, and Sega internally, to hear it told, was such a mess. And to hear Stollar tell it in interviews, you know, him coming into that mess and being like, all right, we got to clean this up. We got to clean this up. We got to figure this out. And it ain't going to be Saturn. Hopefully it'll be Dreamcast. Let's get to work. You know, so them throwing away, and then, you know, obviously they ended up having to throw away the Dreamcast too. The market conditions just were not favorable to them. The Dreamcast, I feel, that situation was not their fault. What happened to them on when the Dreamcast came out, how bad that went for them. I think they got outmarketed. I think Sony became more entrenched than anyone thought they would, faster than anyone thought they ever could. And it came out at a weird time. And some people in chat are saying, well, people wanted a DVD player. Like, yeah, the PS2, like it playing DVDs is super weird. But anyone inheriting or the reins at Sega mid Saturn would know, hey, this thing's gotten away from us. Like, this ain't gonna do it. I don't care. Put out NetLink cartridges all fucking day long. Put out the RAM cartridge. We could port every single game. We could translate every single game into English and put it out here, and charge $10 less than PlayStation games, and it would not have done it for them. With how buried they got in the US. We would get letters all the time from Sega fans. Can't believe how biased in favor of PlayStation you are. They have to be paying you. Because it was, no one fucking gave a shit. Like in a mainstream sense, like no one gave a shit about the Saturn. I had a Saturn. I was importing Saturn games left and right. And I was like, I'm having a fucking great time over here. But geez, I get why these games don't hold the widest appeal, and Sony was going as wide as they possibly could, especially in Europe. They're throwing fucking raves and setting up Wipeout kiosks and shit, you know? Like Sony did a really good job. Sony seemed like fucking absolute... I don't know. Like it was very hard to take Sony seriously when they first got in because it's Sony. And you're like, oh, the Walkman people are going to make a video. All right, I guess. Fucking whatever. I mean, Sony ImageSoft made Hook for the Sega CD, so hey. But it was very hard to take them at their word, especially because you had seen Panasonic get in with the 3DO, and you had seen Philips get in with the CDI. And you're like, oh, God, all these mainstream consumer electronics companies with their fucking video game platforms, they don't know shit about this business. They're just putting out trash. And then you saw Ridge Racer and Tekken and fucking Toshinden 1. Actually, for me, it was Toshinden 1 was the first thing I saw running on a PlayStation. And you're like, oh, okay. I absolutely, positively must own one of these as soon as I possibly can. I don't give a shit about any other I have to own a PlayStation. You just look at it and go like, yep, nope, I need one of those. I have to have one of those. Like, that is a gaming platform I absolutely must own. Nothing on the 3DO said that. You weren't looking at that going like, man, Road and Track presents the need for speed. It is really turning a lot of heads around. No, fuck no. Nothing on the 3DO looked fucking great. 3DO looked like shit from a fucking mile away. And played even worse in most cases. And the CDI is a joke, obviously, the CDI, what are we even talking about? Like, I'm going to push right on this D-pad and then wait a fucking 20 seconds for it to respond. Trash. $700. Trash. So, yeah, I don't know. It was very easy when Sony was getting in to just look at it and lump it in with that other stuff and just be like, whatever, that thing's probably too expensive and fucking whatever. Who cares? And then you saw those games running and you were like, okay, no, they are not only incredibly serious, they are the most serious. And this is crazy. It is crazy that this device exists. I will stab someone to own a PlayStation type of shit. And then we went through it all over again with Microsoft, where when they started talking about the Xbox, it was like, all right, yes, the Windows people are going to make a video game machine. Sure. Good fucking luck. And they had the weird, their messaging was weird too. So even when they had games that looked okay, it was still like, I'm kind of side-eyeing you because you seem like you are fronting, son. You seem like you were coming up in here talking about how much of a gamer you are, and I don't fucking buy it. If you've been around consumer electronics, I don't think they have this anymore. I don't know for sure, but there was just a vibe that Microsoft people always had. You're just like, all right, yeah, you're yes, the M.C over here saying, yes, the power of the tribe. Microsoft always rolled weird. Like their corporate culture, just you would talk to Microsoft people and be like, all right, there's something about you I do not find trustworthy in this situation. So when you take into account how Microsoft is perceived these days, it's even crazier when you think about how Xbox is thought of. Considering where they started, but yeah, Bernie Stollar went on. Gosh, he ran THQ for a while after all that, I want to say. And he had some roots in the arcade business. Like, he went around and he worked at a lot of different places for a lot of years. And I definitely, I never met him, but hearing from people who had worked with him and worked around him and stuff, like, he always seemed like he was an okay guy. And the amount of heat he took for the kind of being the public face of Saturn's quote unquote failure, that was never his. He inherited all of that. Those bad decisions got made well before he took the reins, and so it's interesting to think of literally fucking name dropped in a fucking rap song for fucking up the Saturn. Like, just crazy. So yeah, rest in peace to Bernie Stollar. That's 75. Let's have some wrestling talk before we get into the emails. The song is called Proto Culture by Del the Funky Homo Sapien, if you have not heard it. It's very good. I had a great time watching wrestling this weekend. This was a show that didn't seem like it was going to be nearly as good as it ended up being because of injuries and the number of people that just like the number of times the matches had to change before the show happened. But AEW put on a show with New Japan Pro Wrestling called Forbidden Door. And I feel like these cross-promotional shows, there are not a ton of them anymore, but it just sometimes seems like, oh, well, they're going to like have, you know, there's hard to have storylines going into these shows because they're in separate countries, you know, continents, all this stuff. So it's hard to get the storylines feeling really meaningful going in. But in this day and age, so many of these wrestlers work for so many different companies that you have little bits and pieces of legacy beef that you can use to kind of connect these matches and stuff. And so I had a great time watching it. I don't have too much to say about it other than like there was just a ton of talent even there at the show, even though some of the bigger names were injured. Again, I think Orange Cassidy really, it's very easy to forget just how good he is in the right situation. And the match he had with Will Ospreay, I thought was amazing. I'm not much of a Will Ospreay fan other than, man, New Japan really has cornered the market on like British dudes I like to see get kicked in the face. Between Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr. and Jay White. Not so much Jay White. The other two. The Will Ospreay Orange Cassidy match was really fantastic. Just some fun wrestling. Oh, sorry. Yes, Jay White is from New Zealand. You're right. So he doesn't count. He doesn't count on top of that. He doesn't count on top of not counting. Sorry. Yeah, just some good quality matches there, and fun storyline stuff. But I think that Will Ospreay Orange Cassidy match was the my favorite thing I saw there. Obviously, Claudio, the former Cesaro, coming in. That was pretty awesome as well. Just some big shit happened. And then, you know, of course, last night was John Cena Appreciation Night. We appreciate John Cena. And they sure do keep putting Vince McMahon on television, despite the allegations around him seemingly worsening or getting brought back up after all these years and all this other stuff. It's really weird. It really, I'm not a lawyer. But you know, he stepped back from the CEO position after, in light of some allegations around a former employee that he had paid out of his own pocket, but also gave quite a big raise after starting a relationship, whatever it was. Anyway, that led to some much older rape allegations being brought back into the forefront in such a way that you have to wonder, like, hey, this is the heat that's going to lead to advertisers jumping ship, which is going to lead to the stock price tanking, which is going to lead to Vince McMahon being out of there, right? This is, it's impossible to think of, but this seems like it's teetering on the brink in a way that maybe don't put the guy on television 2 times a week in a situation where it's just going to remind people that stuff is swirling around. I feel like you would make him go away, but hey, he's still running the creative, so he's still on television. I don't know. I hate that, you know, it's a bummer. I'm sure it's an extreme, well, bummer is a fucking shitty word to use with the nature of some of these allegations, but must be real fucked up to be a wrestler at that company putting in good work and putting on good matches to have a lot of that stuff just get overshadowed by all of that sort of stuff. But he owns so much of the company that even if he steps back, it's still his money, right? So it's, yeah, I don't know. I catch Raw and SmackDown pretty much every week these days. They got Money in the Bank coming up, and I don't know. I don't. There are good matches happening in WWE all the time. Like, those people can wrestle quite well. But it's the storyline the nature of the characters, the that sort of stuff. Just, I feel like it is the creative end of that has been letting me down for quite some time now, where it's like, man, I just wish these characters were more compelling. Because that would make this product a little bit more watchable. You've got bits and pieces of it. I think Kevin Owens can't miss. That guy's fantastic. He's the best. Sami Zayn, awesome. But it was great to see John Cena again, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's all the wrestling talk I can stands. That Forbidden Door show, really awesome. If you know who any of these wrestlers are, I guess that's the thing. Is like, do you recommend a show like that and be like, hey, if you don't watch wrestling, you should watch this? Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, but like, would you understand the full impact of some of it without some of the knowledge of some of the characters involved and all that sort of stuff? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But I thought it was just a really fun show. And I was not, I feel like my expectations had been lowered a little bit by the injuries and stuff like that. But I think that everyone involved in that show, for the most part, put in some really killer work. And, you hope Adam Cole's okay and all that sort of stuff. It seems like he suffered an injury there at the end of that match. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's been nice to feel excited about wrestling again, and that's the thing that AEW I think has done, is they are putting on good matches and they're surrounding them with like pretty good storyline reasons for those matches to be happening, at least some of the time. I think there's some stuff they could be doing better with, and I do, it's the double-edged sword of like, they brought in the former Cesaro from WWE, and I'm like, great, I love watching that guy do stuff, and I'm very excited to watch him work more. But also, we need to, that is one door that needs to close, is the WWE to AEW pipeline, because I just feel like that roster, I am missing some of the AEW originals that are now only wrestling on Dark or Dark Elevation or some of the other shows that are YouTube only and stuff like that. And just people feel like they're getting lost in the shuffle in a way that is unfortunate. And that is probably my only real beef with AEW right. My beef with AEW right now is you've got Evil Uno streaming Vampire Survivors to Twitch instead of being at the goddamn pay-per-view working. You know what I mean? Toru Yano was in town. Put a fifth match on the fucking buy-in. Ugh. All right. I want more. I want Evil Uno on television. And it sounds like Stu, and like it sounds like some of the Dark Order guys are not there at the company anymore, and so anyway, talk for an hour about that stuff. Maybe we'll find another outlet for some more long form wrestling talk in the future here, but for now I'll just say that was a hell of a show. If you like wrestling and you like the characters that are on that show, I think they're all pretty well represented. I did not always like the finishes for some of those matches. I think there could have been some more intriguing things there. Alan Angels it seems like he's not there anymore. I don't know, where is Colt Cabana? Did Colt Cabana and CM Punk squash the beef? Who knows? I don't actually know. Maybe that's known. Josh writes in to our email address, which is podcast@guard.bike. And Josh says, yes, the hope, sorry, the My wrestling hope is that when Ring of Honor starts up proper, if they get Ring of Honor off the ground in a meaningful way, that will provide another spot for some of those people to work, and that will provide more of an outlet for some of those people to be seen, and so on and so forth. Sorry. Anyway, wrestling. Wrestling is pretty good. Wrestling is pretty damn good right now. Half of it. Some of it less good. And of course, the people who run it and some of the people around the world of wrestling, some of them are dirtbags. But we knew that already. Okay. Josh writes in and says, I seem to remember you having some experience with the classic beverage that is Four Loko. I have managed to acquire some Four Loko at a considerable cost, $50 for 12 cans, and was wondering how I should enjoy these fine beverages for the first time. What would you consider to be the true Four Loko experience? Well, this is a great question, Josh. The problem with Four Loko in this day and age is that it is not the Four Loko you want. Well, they banned the good stuff, Josh. You bought they sell Four Loko. You can walk into a convenience store and find a Four Loko, but they took the energy element out of it, and so all of the great Alka Pops, which I believe is how they're referred to in the UK, are not on the shelves here anymore. And so you can find Four Loko, but it's been reformulated. I don't think you can find Sparks anymore in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. I don't think they're selling a neutered Sparks, or what was it? Mickey's had one that was like the Buzzer or something that I remember being pretty all right. There was a rush of energy-based alcohol malt beverages there for a year or two. And so there were a bunch of new brands. And so as someone who is constantly looking for new energy drinks to try, well, that fit quite well. Yeah, just drink a vodka Red Bull. Or take your Four Loko, drink it down an inch or so. No, that's too much. Go get the Soda Stream. And by go get this, I mean don't go get this. The advice I'm giving you is fucking bad. Don't fucking do this. That said, they make a fake Diet Red Bull syrup over at SodaStream that you're supposed to put in a SodaStream and mix with whatever. You take some of that and you put that in your Four Loko to put the energy back in. And then you drink it. Don't fucking do this. Like the real answer is you just don't fucking need this. You don't need this in your life. And it apparently caused a lot of problems why it got banned is because college kids can't hold their liquor, and liquor. They can't hold their malt-based beverages. And so they were getting blackout drunk on this stuff. But it's just some energy drink with some alcohol. It's not, I don't know. Like it never hit me that way, I'll say. But seriously, you don't need to live like this. This is, I chased the high of original Four Loko for some number of years afterwards. We wrote songs about how sad it was when it was gone. And all of that sort of stuff. But yes, the people, some people would drink that, and the caffeine, the energy drink aspect of it would prevent them from feeling as drunk as they really were. And that's a bad thing. Because then those people go like, I can drive, I'm fine. Or whatever. And that's no fucking good. But yeah, some of this stuff is still sold overseas. If you're in the United Kingdom, I think you can end up getting like Dragon Juice and some other Danny O'Dwyer. We have to get Danny O'Dwyer on this program as soon as we can to bring his expertise in the realm of these beverages, and only that. You want to talk about video games, Dan? Absolutely not. Yes, Dragon Soup. Sorry, Dragon Soup is the drink I'm thinking of. SOOP, and they still sell some of that stuff over there, and I would really love to try it someday. But yeah, that stuff is still legal over there, so definitely try and get some of that. No, I don't know. So yeah, that's my I would say with this Four Loko you got, it's a flavored malt beverage that's pretty high percentage, and it'll get you drunk. It'll do what it's supposed to do. I'd say it's not a quality beverage, so be careful with that. Be careful with that. Tony writes in from Arizona and says, what are the 3 hip-hop albums you listened to a lot as a kid? Ones you had played so much you had lyrics and track listings and stuff like that memorized. Well, Tony, I think it was Raising Hell by Run DMC and Licensed to Ill by the Beastie Boys. I think were the first 2 big rap records that I got my hands on. Before that, like there was some, you'd hear some Grandmaster Flash, or just like, like I had a relative that had like a breakdancing compilation that had, a bunch of ridiculous beats on it and stuff, and we'd listen to that sometimes, but there wasn't a ton of rapping on it. So those were the first 2. I'm gonna say, it was probably a year or 2, even 3 years later than that. But Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. That was probably, if I had to pick 3, that's probably the 3rd. I listened to that tape so goddamn much when I was in 8th grade or something. Yeah, those are probably the 3 that did it to me, that got me interested to begin with. Wes from Louisville writes in and says, is it more likely that Nintendo releases a game in conjunction with the movie, or to ignore the movie as its own separate thing? If anything, I think it would be a phone game. Yeah, I mean, the title of this email is Super Mario the Movie the Game. Do you think Nintendo tries to make a game based on the movie? I'm going to say probably not. And if they did, it would be like Ubisoft would make it or something. There'd be some weird, yeah, I don't see that. I mean, yes, Orange Noise in the Discord is correct. It worked for Street Fighter. So yeah, only if it's as good as that game was. Only if we've got Chris Pratt dressed up like Mario doing fighting poses. I think that would probably be pretty fantastic. I don't know. I don't think that they need a game. It's been a while, but Nintendo is really starting to feel like a company that has like 6 games finished that they haven't even announced. Like that was, I think, the first time I heard about WarioWare, it was in the context of like, they've got a WarioWare, we've got a WarioWare game done completely that we haven't even announced yet, right? I was like, fuck, really? Okay. All right. You should put that out. Like, oh yeah. I just Nintendo is become an even weirder company as the years have gone on, and the pandemic and the disruption to the kind of standard flow of announcements and releases and all that other stuff only made it weirder. Obviously, they were already on a strange track with Metroid Prime 4 and Bayonetta 3 and all this other stuff. Like Breath of the Wild 2 is at least a big enough franchise that they feel the need to give updates like, hey, yeah, we're not gonna really talk about it here, but we're still working on it. Thank you for your patience. Please be excited. Please clap. And all that sort of stuff. So, I assume that's a process of them being as strategic as possible about their portfolio and when they want to drop stuff. And I wonder how much of that ends up getting dictated by how well existing games are selling. If there's an aspect of just like, well, we don't need to put this game out because people are still buying Switches and people are still buying Super Mario Odyssey, or people are still buying, I don't know how well Odyssey still sells these days. They're still selling Switches, but how many of them are going to new Switch owners and how many of them are people replacing an existing Switch or whatever? But they keep their prices high and keep doing that. Like there's Fanbyte had a big story about the 1-2 Switch sequel that hasn't been officially announced, and like, hey, and the story basically being like, yeah, this game apparently really fucking sucks, and they don't know what to do with it because it really fucking sucks. And how are they going to put it out, and what are they going to do with it, and all that stuff. It's really fascinating. You should go to Fanbyte and dig that article up. It's an interesting quandary, I guess, quagmire to be in with that sort of stuff. Mario Odyssey is currently number 19 on the eShop bestsellers list, according to John. Yeah, okay. That's not nothing. I don't know. So, do you put out a new Mario while the other Mario is still selling? There's a lot of, maybe they're making decisions based on that sort of stuff. And that's why some of these games don't get announced until pretty late. I don't know. It's I guess that's my long-winded way of saying, like, I have no idea what they're doing over there. They're doing their own thing. They're figuring it out. And it seems weird the way they are being about their upcoming games. But also, again, all of the standard stuff applies of like, hey, making games in a pandemic over here. Hey, it's a me, Chris Pratt. Like all that stuff definitely still applies. All right, let's see here. Wade from Oregon says, your talk of Neon White got me thinking about global leaderboards in other games. I remember playing Marble Blast Ultra and having a fun time trying to beat my friends' times and feeling really good about beating them, and then I would check the global times and feel like I'm actually dog shit at the game. Cheaters aside, seeing thousands of players have an insane time that's a full minute faster than the par time I barely beat really made me feel less happy about my accomplishment. Have you ever felt this way about a global leaderboard? No, I think, because to me, the interesting competition is competing with your friends, because they're the people you can text and say, you suck shit at this game. And then they beat your scores, and then you go back and seeing that there's a full minute of like time for you to get better only makes that friend-based competition better if you've got people that are into it, because it means you've got so much room to improve. So I think that's how I tend to look at that stuff. The global leaderboard stuff, obviously the people at the top of that leaderboard are nuts. They're fucking lunatics. They're scary people. They're frightening, but also they don't exist. They're just like, they're numbers on a board the same way all scoreboards are. But friends leaderboards, I think, is where it's at. I wish that more games would do stuff like some of these services. I guess Xbox Live has its club set up that nothing uses, and Steam has its Steam group stuff that nothing really uses. It'd be nice if you could have like group leaderboards and stuff like that. It's one thing that Trackmania actually does quite well, is the club stuff that Trackmania has. You can pull that in to see the ghosts of the people that are in your club and the ghosts of the people on the global leaderboard, and the way that they handle all of that stuff, and watching all the ghost recordings of their runs and stuff. That stuff is really well done. And I would love to see more games of this nature find ways to widen things out, because there sometimes you don't want people on your friends list, but you're in a loose collective of folks, and it makes sense for you to have some kind of group over here, and so it'd be nice to have like those sorts of more publicly joinable things that you could kind of widen that local competition, I guess. That's what I think. Emily writes in with a question for the ages. Are there any good drive-bys in video games? I don't think I've ever played a fun one. Emily, you are right. This is a sore subject with me as far. It's a weird thing. But yeah, no, it's drive-by shootings in video games are rarely done well. Because you have to drive the car, and it turns out driving a car and firing a gun actually is hard to do, I'll say. You can really only do one of those well at the same time. And this was when Grand Theft Auto was going 3D. No, before that, when GTA 2 was coming out, that kind of became my like go-to question for the folks at Rockstar, for Geronimo and Rob, who was doing PR for them at the time, Jeff Castaneda, and then the first question I would always ask is like, so you putting drive-bys in? We going to put drive-bys in GTA now? I mean, can I shoot the guns out of the car? And I want to say there was something in the London add-on, or maybe it was GTA 2, but there was an ability to shoot out the front of the car. It was like you would get a gun on the car and it could shoot, and that's not a drive-by. Shooting out of the windows of the car is a drive-by. And I would always ask and just be like, so you got drive-bys in this one? Like, what are we doing this? I mean, this is the game, like that's the game you're making, right? I mean, what the hell? So they eventually got there, right? Like, I think, did GTA 3 do it? Or was it Vice City by the time I don't remember where they finally did it, but it was, it was like with the kind of one-handed weapons, you could do that kind of side view and shoot out of the car, and it just sucked. It wasn't actually a useful gameplay thing. It just, you couldn't aim well. There was all this other stuff, and obviously in a multiplayer game, it's a very different situation because you can have someone in the passenger seat dumping, as it were. And yeah, no, but I think that, yes, in terms of like solo single player drive-by type stuff, I don't know that any game has really done it well without taking the controls out of your hand for one or the other. Like, okay, we're going to auto drive in this like rail shooter mission that's basically a drive-by or whatever, there was stuff like that. But yeah, it's a real shame we have not seen it's a ridiculous concept. We still have not seen great drive-bys in video games. Lucky and Wild. How about that? Except Lucky and Wild didn't have monitors on the sides, so it was really, again, you shooting out the front of the car, which doesn't always make a lot of, it's not what you're looking for. Jeff from Connecticut says, which, if any, Japanese publishers do you think Microsoft will acquire? Phil Spencer has been pretty clear that they want a variety of content in Game Pass to appeal to all audiences, and after the Activision deal goes through, their only notable genre gap will be Japanese stuff and fighting games, of course. I don't know that I'd say Japanese stuff is a genre. Anyway, Microsoft's partnered with Sega a lot over the years, so that would be my guess. Sony seems to be tying down Square Enix as much as possible, and Capcom seems to be successful enough now that they don't need to sell. What do you think? Yeah. I mean, Sega was always the choice that made sense, right? Because even in the days of the original Xbox, the Dreamcast ran on Windows CE, and Sega was a really big early supporter of the original Xbox. And even then, like it sounded like they were close to maybe doing a deal for buying Sega back in the day. I still think aspects of that make sense, but remember, Sega is a much larger and different company now. You know, like a lot of the Sega stuff being run out of Europe, and you know, they've got their PC stuff, which again, you know, Microsoft could fit that right in as well, I suppose. You know, RTS games and stuff like that. Like, and Sega is also Atlas now. So you'd be buying Persona at that point, which would be interesting. And you'd get Football Manager and all the quality, whatever. Yeah, you'd get all that stuff. Sega is a lot of different things now, and that would be like they're a much larger, stranger thing than they were post Dreamcast. So I still think that there's aspects of that make sense, but again, like I don't know what Sega's books look like, so you know, I don't know that necessarily makes as much sense as maybe it did 20 years ago. Capcom, like you said, they seem to be doing well enough now that for as much as Capcom seemed like they were potentially on the ropes there for a bit, it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. So yeah, I don't know that Capcom necessarily needs to sell, but again, you know, like it's how much money do you got? Like, what's the price tag? Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, you know, yeah, people also bring up Konami, and yeah, what are you buying with Konami? I don't know, and that's a legit question because I don't know what the status of, like, how many studios does Konami have? How many people are there that are key people at Konami to make those games, and how much of it is you just buying IP? How much of it is you just saying, we want to come in, we want to be the Contra people, we want to be the Castlevania people, we want to be the ones making bad Metal Gear games now? Like, how bad do you want it? It's a really deep and rich catalog of IP that Konami does control, but how valuable is all of it compared to, like, what could you do with it? Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, right. Konami has the Yu-Gi-Oh! License. They do those card games. That's them. Super Bomberman R2. That's them. So how many of those? Like, I love Castlevania as much as the next guy, perhaps slightly less, perhaps slightly more, depending on the game. But how effectively do you think you could exploit the Castlevania IP or Contra or Gradius or like the kind of the wide sweeping history of Konami? Obviously, people just go right to Metal Gear every time this conversation comes up, and he goes, "Oh man, they could buy Metal Gear and put it out." Like, yeah, you could, but without the right people, Metal Gear Survive, I think, proved that without the right people, you're not. What are you making? If I bought the Metal Gear license and I said I'm gonna make a new Metal Gear, it's going to be like a pretend, you know, like at best, you're going to have people trying to ape Kojima's style, or you're going to buy the IP and have Kojima do it, even though he's part of an independent developer now. And you know, like, you could do that. You absolutely could. Does he want to? You know, everyone's got a price, I guess, right? But like, if I were him, I wouldn't want to go, especially after a bunch of other people fucking tarnished it, and go like, yeah, I guess I'll go back to Metal Gear and try and fix it and make it right. I wouldn't want to do that if I were him. I would want to be on to new projects and new things and all this other stuff. He seems like a guy that thrives on, like, in his kind of modern form, his post Konami form. Seems like an individual that thrives on being able to come up with new shit. And that's something that this industry doesn't have enough of. And so for as much as I don't think that his video games are amazing video games much of the time, I would much rather have that guy off doing fucking whatever crazy. There's a story going around like, I had an idea, but it was too much like The Boys, so I fucking killed it. Like, yeah, no, cool. Good. Good and good. Good that you're coming up with weird shit. Good that you're looking at it and going like, there's something like that in the marketplace. Fuck it. Like yes, shut it down. Move on to something weirder. Do something else. Like, yeah, totally. I want him out there doing that. I don't want people going like, okay, if we can convince Konami to let us buy or license the IP, and then we can have Kojima come in and say like, all right, we're back. We got the gang back together, and now they're going to like, it's just let shit die. That popular free-to-play game, let shit die. It just, you don't need it. You don't actually need more Metal Gear. So what then is the actual value of the Metal Gear IP? You know, are you going to hand it to someone else and they're going to make an anime stealth game? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be what players want? Will players ever accept it as its own thing if Kojima is not involved? Metal Gear Survive is a shitty game. But even before people knew for sure that it was a shitty game, people were very against it. Granted, it didn't show well. It wasn't easy, you know. It's not a perfect point that I'm making here. But I don't think that that IP holds as much value as people think, because it is so wrapped up with its creator, and that creator seems like someone who would not be super into reviving all of that shit. And so you end up with an IP that you're like, okay, well, we can remaster it, we can reissue it, we can put it out 9 different ways. But that's like that's the stuff that Konami can do right now. You know, they don't need to sell the IP to do that. They'll probably eventually do that, right? Like, you will probably eventually get, hey, here's your fucking MGS4 re-release on a platform that people actually play games on now and own and stuff, you know? Like, eventually something will line up there and something will happen. I have to imagine that they do it. But I don't know. I don't think the desire for that is such that it automatically, I could see someone doing it. I could see like someone going through that thought process and coming out the other end and spending all the money to make it happen. I just don't think that results in a quality product. I just don't think I don't think that's a path to like revitalizing the Metal Gear IP. I don't think that's a path to like really making that thing feel relevant again. Like, I just feel like that book is closed. It's totally okay that book is closed. If I were going to do anything with it, if I was going to take the Metal Gear IP, I would do anime. I would find a crew and I would have them make multiple seasons of anime and put that out. You know, the same way they did with Castlevania. And just do something like that, whether it's a more direct retelling of those games or it's something that's kind of on its own or something like that. Like, I would just say, fuck it. Here's what we're doing with Metal Gear now. And in conjunction with the remasters, we're going to put out, you know, a 3-season anime thing. And one whole episode is fucking Snake crawling through that tunnel with his armor fucking burning off of him as he goes. And it's the best episode of anything ever. That's what I would do. Rodney Gamerfield from the Discord writes in, and he is curious about the future of the Steam Deck. I'm curious what you think the future of the Steam Deck will be. Valve has punted on hardware a bunch of times before, but response to the Steam Deck seems overwhelmingly positive. Does this version of the Steam Deck become reference hardware for other manufacturers to riff on? Do we see an updated Steam Deck from Valve in 2023, or does it fade away as another novelty? So my Steam Deck is supposed to be showing up tomorrow. And I am excited to use it. I am excited to install 50 Cent Blood on the Sand on it. I'm excited to play quality video games like Mr. Do on the Steam Deck. And other stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But that's, as I'm going through my head, there was definitely an aspect of like this week, like, what am I going to play on a Steam Deck? What will I? And I started looking at the MU Deck site, mudeck.com, which is a pretty easy installer for a lot of emulation stuff. And yeah, so there's that, or RetroArch or something like that. So there's a lot of different stuff on that front that I want to check out. I'm just going to play Idol Slayer on it. I accidentally played 3 hours of Idol Slayer last night. Played in quotes, I suppose. You can jump. That makes it a video game, right? Yeah, I think, anyway, sorry. Rodney's question about the future of the Steam Deck. I'm like zoning out, going like, yeah, what am I going to do with a Steam Deck? It seems like that it is got people talking in a way that other Valve hardware has not. The Valve Index, obviously they're still making it, they're still selling it, all this other stuff, but it is what it is, and they'll probably eventually iterate on that someday when that makes sense, I would think, or honestly maybe not. Maybe the Index is like their last foray into VR hardware, and they just let other companies handle the headsets from here on out because it's not worth their time. I guess it's hard to say. But obviously they are still making that. They could update that to make it more wireless. There's always more pixels per eye they could be shoving in front of your face with that stuff. So we'll see. But VR continues to exist. It's cool that it continues to exist. It's still weird to me that we live in the future where VR exists and totally works, and it isn't the biggest thing ever. Feels like a real blown opportunity in a lot of different ways, where they're like, oh, right, you need a lot of space for this shit. People don't have that right now. Anyway, the Steam Deck seems very popular as it gets out to more and more places, and we'll see more and more people do things with it. I guess, like, when you talk about reference hardware, who knows? Like, yes, there's no reason why we couldn't see other hardware manufacturers try to make something roughly equivalent to a Steam Deck. I mean, it is just fucking running Linux. So maybe you could see Steam even badging some of those as like Steam Deck compatible or something like that if they wanted to start that kind of program. I don't know, that makes a ton of sense. I think they will put out this Steam Deck and see how it goes. I think that they have ideas about what they would like to do based on the seeming popularity of the Steam Deck out of the gate. Because you go like, okay, yeah, no, this is probably the best we can do at this price point right now. But I'm sure that those engineers are like, it'd be great to put this kind of CPU in this thing when it exists, or if we get to this point where we can get this for this amount of money, or if the parts cost goes here, faster storage, better screen, there's a number of different things you could do. Who knows, they could even say like, oh, hey, we wanted to make a lower end Steam Deck for less money that is not going to play a Forza Horizon 5 or something like that, but is going to play, some of the smaller, more indie focused stuff perfectly well. And it runs much quieter and is less money and is smaller. Like maybe there's a market for that, like something that actually is more of a Switch equivalent if they wanted to go that route. Right now, the Steam Deck is an enthusiast device. It's not some big mainstream thing. It's a little bulky. As I understand it, it's a little noisy. And I think that there's a crowd of people that will easily put up with that stuff for what you get, but it probably hits a ceiling at some point until they can kind of revisit it and think like, okay, well, what can we get away with thermally in this form factor? Can we find ways to have quieter cooling? Can we can we make it slightly bigger? Can we cool it differently? Can we put a different part in it that is either more powerful or less powerful or both? Like I think that there's and then down the line, whether that's 18 months, 2 years or whatever, then maybe you get to a point where like, okay, we are iterating on the Steam Deck with better hardware. And now you've got the Steam Deck 2 or just the Steam Deck 2024 or whatever, whatever you want to call it. I think that all of those options are available to them depending on their appetite for it, but more importantly, depending on the consumer appetite for it. And if that's something that they can continue to make even easier to use and easier for average consumers to understand, if they get to a point where the Steam Deck experience is Switch-like in its ease, because you can still dig into Steam menus and do all this stuff, and that's all you need to be able to do that. But I wonder how much you have to do that. Like I feel like the early days of Steam Deck have been like, oh, well, this game runs well on this version of Proton, but not well on this version of Proton, and we need to do this and that. They need to figure that out. That needs to never be a concern for the end user if they don't want it to be. And largely, I don't think it is, but like that stuff kind of surfaces just enough, probably. At least in what I've read about the Steam Deck. It's easy for me to say this the day before my Steam Deck is supposed to show up. Maybe I'll get it and so go like, oh, this thing's a shit show, or hey, this is incredible, whatever. But yeah, I think that it's a lot of that stuff's up in the air, and I think that it's they will have some opportunities to do some stuff. It's just a matter of how much they want to chase it and how lucrative it is for them to chase it and all that sort of stuff. Maybe they get to a point where they're like, this is our foundation. We'll update it eventually, but like if other companies come along and make more powerful ones, we will do the work on the Steam side to ensure that it is easy for those things to run on whatever. So yeah, I don't know. We'll it's a very long-winded way of saying like, I don't know, we'll see. Seems like they've got a whole lot of options. All right. 2 more emails here before we go. Again, podcast@guard.bike is where you want to send your emails in. And, I'll read them and we'll read some of them here on the show. Fucking A, right? Eric from Norway writes in and says, I was listening to an old podcast today where the subject of the Super Wild Card device for the SNES came up. Judging by the discussions and the information I could find about it casually looking it up, this was a device that allowed you to dump and load ROM data from SNES carts onto floppy disks. I have never heard of this device before, so I'm curious what the history behind it was. Do you have a Super Wild Card? Who's asking? Do you have a Super Wild Card stacked away in your garage? Also, what is your favorite obscure video game console peripheral? Yeah, the Super Wild Card, and there was the Super Wild Card DX and the MGD, what was it? The Multi-Game Doctor 3? Is that what that was? I think that did Genesis and SNES. Yeah, there are a handful of these devices that largely came out of Hong Kong. And they were neat. I only encountered one a couple of times. But yeah, or like the UFO, like the Super UFO was one of them. But they were copiers. They copied cartridges onto floppy disks. And sometimes, some of these SNES games would get very large. So you would have to copy them off to 4 different floppies. And then when you went to want to play the game, you would have to put disc 1 in and load it and then pop it out, put in disc 2 and wait a while. And so like the act of reloading some of these games was insane. And later games would come up with copy protection that would defeat kind of the standard Super Wild Card stuff. And so that resulted in... So the existence of that device resulted in a wares scene popping up around these cartridges. And so suddenly you had 0-day SNES games getting online with big, long info files and all of the same stuff that you expect from 0-day wares. And oftentimes some of the cracking groups involved would have to crack the game. They would add a trainer so you could cheat. You would, sometimes they would just throw their name into the header of the cart. So that's why there are so many shitty dumps. When you go looking for games online now, and you're looking through your directory and going like, I have a whole bunch of fucked up shit that is not identified by any of the modern tools we use to identify these things. It's because they're all copier dumps and fucking crazy shit that came from a different era of this stuff. The reason No Intro is called No Intro is because these groups would create demo style intros and put them on the front of the cartridges sometimes. So when you turn them on, it would like, here's our BBS, call us, and all this other stuff. That's why No Intro exists, because they're like, no, these are the versions that don't have all these fucking weird Cracktro style demo style intros and stuff like that. So the Super Wild Card, I remember encountering one when I worked at a magazine in like, I guess that was 94 was the first time I saw one in person, and it just felt magical. But it was like they were super expensive, and I couldn't justify buying one, and it was kind of like getting to be the latter days of the SNES anyway, so it was just like Then when the N64 came out, there was the Dr. 64, and then what was it, the Z64. And those were copiers for N64 games. I do have one of those. Someone sent one of those in a long time ago, and I have one of those somewhere. And so that had, I believe, that just had a slot for a drive in it, and you can kind of put whatever. So it has a CD-ROM drive in it. So I don't think you can use it to dump carts. You can only use it to load them off the CD into memory. But some of these, I remember one of these when the N64 was coming out, literally had a fucking zip drive in it. I don't know if you remember the zip drive, but zip discs were these big chunky discs that I want to say held like 100 megabytes a piece. And so they could hold all of an N64 game. And, you could, just like with the floppy disks, except they held more on them, you could dump N64 games to zip disks, and it was cool. I don't know. I never saw one in the wild when the N64 was actually like contemporary. Some developers would use them for prototyping, as like dev kits. They were like, okay, well, we're going to compile this ROM and then copy it over here and then load it, because we don't have official dev kits, because we need to have more dev kits so that more people can be testing builds, so that more people, like the copier stuff ended up being, and then later the mod ship scene for like PlayStation 1 and stuff ended up being really vital for some developers. And so you'd have cases where developers were just buying modded PS2s instead of spending 10 times that on an official PS2 dev kit. And so smaller developers were able to afford quote unquote dev hardware that they would never have been able to afford before. And that was actually, there was a boon in for freelance writers and freelance reviewers. Sony did not send out a lot of test kit hardware to magazines, or we had one we had one PlayStation 1 that could play pre-release games, which were just burned discs. So then when mod ships hit, it was like, oh cool, now we can all have one of these at our desk and we can all do our jobs without going, hey, where's the fucking debug? Hey, a game came in, I need the debug for the next 9 days. Oh, you're still finishing up a review and I need to wait? Fuck. Like, it was a real pain in the ass. And so then freelancers started getting modded PlayStations, and you're like, cool, awesome. Now I can send this build of this game out to you to review, and all this sort of stuff. And Sony doesn't have to send out their expensive dev kits anymore, which I'm sure did not make them very happy. In fact, I know it did not make them very happy, but it worked out fine for everyone involved. So thanks, Eric, for that. David from Old York writes in, as a well-known aficionado of Dr. Detroit, what are your thoughts on Night Shift, the other early 80s movie about a milquetoast guy who stumbles into being a pimp? The classic movie premise that will never be revisited. I enjoyed a wimpy Henry Winkler in gritty, seedy New York with Michael Keaton more than I thought I would. Yeah, Night Shift is pretty good. I'm a Dr. Detroit man because Dr. Detroit makes adjustments to the human spine. I think, yes, I will take Dr. Detroit over Night Shift 7 days a week. But Night Shift is fine. Night Shift is pretty good. Night Patrol, the Unknown Comic movie. Everyone remembers the Unknown Comic, right? He wore a bag over his head, like Kip Sabian, but in the 80s, 70s. Night Patrol is a hell of a movie. Night Shift is fine. I don't have any real huge affinity for it. I didn't see it back then, but it was seeing it years later, I was like, oh, this is really good too. But Dr. Detroit is a perfect dumb film. Howard Hessman in there. Howard, rest in peace. One of Dan Aykroyd's finest roles, I will say. And that's going to do it for us here at the Jeff Gerstmann Show. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. It's been a hell of a day, a banner day, one might say. So I want to thank everyone for sticking around and for hanging out in the Discord. Again, if you want more details on joining up, on forming a posse, starting a fellowship over here on Discord, you can find out more details on that. And also the streaming schedule for the rest of the week. We'll be back. I'll be back Thursday and Friday. I was going to save that Sonic video for Wednesday, but I guess that embargo is up, so I can just put it up right now, and I will do so. So look for that on YouTube in about 5 minutes. In fact, I'll just go and do that right now while we're talking before I forget. Go over here, content, click this button. That's not the thumbnail I uploaded, but in some ways I like it better. So let's go with that. Save or publish. Public. Done. Save. Yes, head over to YouTube for my full thoughts about Sonic Frontiers now that we can talk about cyberspace. All right. And we'll be back Thursday to stream some stuff. I think I'm going to play some Dragon's Dogma on Friday. We'll see how it goes. All right. So everybody have a great rest of the week. I'll see you in a couple days. Take care of yourselves. Forgot to bring water in this room this week. So I'm going to go drink some water. Have a good one, everybody. See ya.